Hey folks, Larry Rolla here. Uh, Before we start, I just want to let you know that tomorrow we're doing another podcast, and it's going to be the interview with Eric Cherry, and he's going to explain about the $40,000 fine he got. He's going to explain the whole situation and the problem with the United States Shrining Association. He's going to explain all of that in an interview. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting show with uh, Freddie Hudson. And also on Monday, for those of you on Monday that it's going to be a very interesting show. It's going to be like a special. For those of you out there who are looking to invest in something, you have to tune into this show. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. We're going to explain the whole thing on Monday. This show, this company that we're going to talk about, it was created by a good friend of mine. Spent a couple of $1 million putting it all together. He spent 5 years putting it all together with the apps and everything he had to do. And it started, I think, a week ago. And there's still shares open at the super reduced rate of $1 a share, which is soon to go up at the end of this month. It's going to go up. By that time, this company will probably be worth, in my opinion, I personally think that Uber will buy him out for a few $1 billion within 6 months. So if anybody, and the reason that they're looking for another few 100,000, and it don't have to be all at once. It could be 10 people with 10,000, 100 people, whatever. But if you're looking to invest in something, this is a major, major home run. So if you're at least a little bit interested, make sure you tune in Monday and listen to this opportunity. Like I said, they already started the company. It's a major home run, and you'll see why. It's been basically closed off to the public because all the investors up to this point, a few $1 million, were basically family and friends. But now, because of some marketing things that the attorneys say should be done, they need about another 400,000 or 500,000. And that's what this podcast is about. So if you're interested in investing in something, or you have the money and looking for someplace to put it, this is a major home run. Okay, so that'll be Monday. And tomorrow we're going to do the whole Eric Cherry thing and why the racing committee, why the USDA, why he got fined $40,000. He explains the whole thing. And with that, I'm going to bring on my pal Joe and our special friend Ron. Okay, folks, we're on. We're live.
Hi, everybody.
And Eddie didn't show up yet. I don't know. He was on with me last night for a couple hours. I think we wiped him out. But everybody was looking forward, Ron, to listening, because last time you were on, you said this time you were going to tell us all about the horses that you bought, owned, and who trained them, and everything. So it's going to be an interesting thing. I myself is going to sit back and listen to you. I'll put the comments up. So
anytime you want to ask me a question or comment, please feel free to do so.
Okay. So we'll start. Let's see. Okay, everybody's on here. There's a bunch of people on there just saying hello. So
okay, hello.
So that's it. So how you been, Ron?
I'm doing fine. I had a good time on your show last week. It revived a lot of memories, and just looking forward to sharing some of those with you and your people. The only problem is, that my stories and your stories, Larry, are 30, 40 years old. You know,
50.
they may not be able to relate to that because, like I said last week, there's no barn areas anymore. The camaraderie is not the same as it used to be. But you know, I'd like to do the best I can. I got some stories I'd like to share with you. The first thing is I got a question for you, Larry.
Okay.
Do you know that I used to race at Roosevelt Raceway before I even had horses?
No, I did not know that.
Okay, in 1964, 65, Roosevelt had what was called Roosevelt Raceway drags. They
I
had
didn't know that.
they had drag racing at Roosevelt Raceway. Yeah, you came in, you circled around where the track kitchen was. They classified all your horses, and right where the stable gate is, right where the stable gate is, you would just make a U-turn right there, and then race an eighth of a mile straight out into the parking lot. Went on for a while. They gave the trophies and the little sticker for the windshield and everything like that. And people loved it. And unfortunately, one Saturday night, these guys called the Giannini brothers, they had a dragster called the Black Widow, and it drove right up one of the light poles, and he died. So they canceled it
Okay.
immediately. Yeah, I was there. The dragster actually drove with two wheels, the front wheel and the back wheel, all the way up the thing. He was going, 200 miles an hour, 250, and that was the end of Roosevelt Raceway drags.
Wow.
Yeah, and they gave out trophies and everything. I only started in 64, 65, but I think it went on 64 too.
Wow.
When the meet was at Yonkers, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you do know that a couple of meets, Roosevelt Raceway took in quarter horses.
I didn't know that neither.
One long Yonkers meet, they took in quarter horses, and after they left, they promised they would never do it again because they tore the place up, tore the barn area up, everything. It was like a bunch of like it was an invasion of alien cowboys came in.
I wonder if they had to tear up the racetrack to make a cushion, or they just let the quarter horses run
Yeah.
on the
I,
standardbred
I,
racetrack.
I don't know, but I'm just saying they cut that out, and those are just some of the things I just wanted to tell you. Also, you know, I've mentioned before that all of the horses that I got, I'm very into the breeding of the mare. I think the mare is the most important thing. 9 times out of 10, you have a good mare, you might get something. I'm sure you know, and I'm not telling you because you know, Larry. I'm going to tell your audience. You're a good horse, Wildwood Jeb, right?
Yes.
He was by Steady Star,
Yes.
and the mare's name was PJ's Dream.
Okay.
PJ's Dream was by Race Time.
I didn't know that neither.
Right. Race time mares are considered long tall at a race time mare. All these good horses had race time mare, but your horse had that. And if you look at it, uh, no offense, but Wildwood Jeb and Steady Star didn't make as much money as race time did 3 generations earlier. That just shows you what kind of a horse he was in his day, a
Yeah.
race time,
Yeah.
and we were talking about that horse Greenspeed that I brought to Houghton's house. Nobody
The
knows
truck.
that Greenspeed was the sire of Stanley's Hambletonian winner, Dwayna.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just one of the things. Did you know that? Uh, a bettor by the name of Ernie Dalman used to sit up in the grandstand, pick out horses, go see Buddy Regan, and he would claim every single horse Ernie Dalman told him.
I think he won the largest trifecta or whatever it was at the time. He won a lot of money,
Yeah.
and then he switched over from standardbreds to thoroughbreds after a while.
Yeah. Well, Buddy had a house on Ellison Avenue, nice and neat. And then he bought a farm right over there in 106. You pulled in, there was a big turnout paddock. But during that era, he would, and Carmine drove him, he would get those horses, take all their equipment off, open their hobbles up 2 inches, stick them out, inject their knees and hocks, and stick them out in the field for 2 weeks, bring them back. He was winning races like you can't believe, just with that kind of theory that he used. Um,
That's a great theory. That's great.
Yeah, that's what he did. He said, I just
That
take
would work.
all their equipment off and open their hobbles up, inject their knees and hocks, put them
Yeah.
out in the field and bring them back.
Wow.
I forgot to mention that uh, before I got out of business, I shipped. I'm just saying this because I'm proud of it. 14 winners to the Little Brown Jug.
Oh,
Three for Houghton, Hervey's horse. One that was really close to home was a horse for a friend of mine called Lee Benson. He won with C Train.
yep.
Benny Webster drove him. He
I
was a
remember C-Train.
big gelding that wasn't even supposed to win, and he won.
He
And
was a chestnut too, right?
yeah, and the one that was the dearest to my heart was uh, Sc- um, Bucky Norris won the jug with
Governor Skipper.
Governor Skipper. Johnny Chapman drove him, and I don't know if you guys can see this. This is a picture of the horse in the winner's circle with Scotty Norris with a Woodbury Horse Transportation T-shirt on.
Yes,
Oh,
we see
cool.
it.
You see
Very
that?
good.
Yep.
You see
Yep.
that? If
Yep.
Larry, if I told you that I bought 10,000 of those shirts, would you believe it?
I believe it.
Every person in Roosevelt Raceway had at least two or three of them. One time in the winter, my wife and I, we went to, and friends of ours went upstate. We didn't know anything. We went to this place called Kutcher's. You ever hear of that?
Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. There was like on the way to our room, they had like a bucket standing in the corner with the carpeting all mildew. When you walked in, the smell of
Yeah.
the pool. So we stayed there one night. We said, what are we fooling around for? Let's go in the city. So on the way to the city, we went through Goshen. And when we got to a light in Goshen, some guy and a girl was crossing the street, and that guy had a Woodbury Horse Transportation T-shirt on.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, it was just one of those things that you
Kutch's
think,
Kutch's Hotel is where Kadish stayed every year.
yeah, did he like it?
I guess so. He went back every year.
Yeah. You remember I told you that I bought the company from Alex Nichols' agency,
Yeah.
Yes.
and
Yep.
he was one of the smartest businessmen they were. Well, he actually flew horses before Tex Sutton. And Tex Sutton actually liked his stalls. So he made the manufacturer for Tex Sutton. Then he would get out of that business and he would go into another business. He had a Hatteras. He got the blueprints. He cut the frame down 2 feet, had them made in Taiwan, sold them for $200,000 less. Hatteras finally bought him out. But his biggest thing was he rented cattle pens to Flying Tigers Airlines. Flying Tigers would fly around cattle, right? And in
Hmm.
order, and you take the airplane, it's an empty fuselage, and he would send his guy over to Glen Cove Hardware and buy huge sheets of fencing, fencing that was bordered with the pipes, right? They would
Right.
go in the airplane and drill into the wall one of these things, and then that would comprise 10 feet. Then they put it over a latch. Then so when you came in, all the doors were swung to the side. You heard the cattle in, swung the doors, and off you went. That was called Alex Nichols Cattle Herding Systems. Now this is a true story. He sold to Flying Tigers Airlines 6 airplanes with the small systems in it, and he got $268 a day, 7 days a week, times 6 airplanes. He had the 4 big airplanes that you could haul the bigger amount of cattle, and he got $478 a day, times 4, times 7 days a week. Now you add that all up, it's over $1 million. And so, of course, he was getting richer and richer and richer. He was a good businessman, like I said. So he told the secretary, "Don't send them a bill every week. You're going to be seeing a bill coming in every week. Give them a bill once a month. I mean, that way you're not going to bring attention to yourself." After about 4 or 5 years of doing this, and by then we were friends, I already bought trailers off him. I'll show you a picture of them later. He said to me, "Can you follow me to JFK Airport? I have to meet with the head guy from Flying Tigers." I said, "Okay." I didn't ask him why, and we went there. We get in front of Flying Tigers. He calls the guy up. He says, "Jim, can you meet me in the parking lot?" The guy says, "Well, this is a little unusual, Mr. Nichols. We have a meeting up here. What do you want to see me about?" He said, "Could you please come down in the parking lot?" He said, okay. So my car was parked behind him. He come down, the guy came. Alex gets out of a brand new, I'm telling you, 3 days old, Mercedes. At that time, it was a 350 SL, the sports car. And he says, this is the most beautiful car I ever seen, Mr. Nichols. When did you just get it? He said, I just got it the day before yesterday. So Alex says, do you really like it? He says, are you kidding? Who wouldn't like that? He hands him the keys, an envelope. He says, in there is the registration, the title. Here's the keys. It's in your name. I hope you enjoy it. The guy didn't know what to say. He said, so Alex says, what did you want to talk to me about? He goes, nothing. He got in my car and we drove home. Never heard from
Wow.
the guy again. I mean, that's the kind of guy. That's the kind of guy he was. That's a true story. But
Wow.
it's just those are just a few things that I actually found. I mean, and you know this, Joe. You know that guy Roy Rollins that worked for me, that black guy.
Yep.
He worked for George Wampetish, and then he
Hmm.
quit him and drove for me. And then Kurt Bennett, he quit John Payton. That was to work for me. He was Benny Webster's brother-in-law.
Right.
And you told me that he's now into the honey company, Golden Blossom Honey.
Yeah. John Payton owns Golden
Yeah,
Blossom Honey.
if you get a bottle, you'll see his name on there.
Yeah,
So
I told you that a long time ago.
it's a small world. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But those are just one of those things that I wanted to say. I also wanted to say that everybody knows Houghton's good horse, Annihilator. And after his 2-year-old career, in fact, they had him in New York. They only jogged him for about 2 weeks, and Apples Thomas, his main guy, said, we need a truck to take Annihilator and Pershing Square to Florida. So the horse never had a break, like 100%. He always jogged a couple of days a week. And we came back from Florida. He won his first race. Somebody told Lou Guida that the next stop that he was going to, there was some kind of a bug in the straw, or something wasn't right. So he asked me if he could rent the truck for the entire season and keep Annihilator on that truck.
Right.
And
Boll weevils.
yeah, and this is a picture of the truck. Of course, we completely redid it. I don't know if you can see that, but there's Annihilator sticking his head out the door.
That's his
And
story, right?
that was his home. We took all 4 stalls out, so we had a big 4-stall area, and then we put this gate up there. So and while you're looking, notice you see that these top doors are open, right?
Yeah.
And then you can actually shut the bottom ones. These are Dutch doors, right?
Right.
So he would spend his whole. We go to the meadows. He would never get off the truck. Race, jog, train, go to the next stop. He did it the whole year, and I'm not going to bore you, but there's a letter up there thanking me for the whole thing. But the horse never got off the truck the entire year. That driver had the best summer he ever had in his life.
Sure.
Well, he was like one of those race car drivers. All he had to do was polish the truck all day long, and then go on to the next stop. And basically, that's what he did. But okay, so I would also like to tell you, I also had bought 4 running horse trailers off of a guy called Richard Whitehead. Did you ever hear of him?
No,
I
I
bet
didn't.
Joe did.
It sounds familiar, but I don't.
Yeah, but they were beautiful trailers, 48 feet long. They were 9-horse vans. You could put 3 in the peak. Had the well for the jog cars or bikes.
They had the drop ceiling.
Drop ceiling.
On the top.
Yeah. They had drop ceiling.
Yeah.
And so long that the back compartment was huge, and they were what called walkthroughs. You only put 1 ramp down. You have the ramps that go in the back laying down. You walk the horse in, put the ramp up, put the thing, he's in. And then the ones in the front, right, don't have to go near any horses. You put those 3 in, and then you back those into those. So instead of having ramps in the front, ramps in the back, the big thing going, you didn't have any of that. And those horses the trailers that I got from Chester Sayre, they had the 6 in the front, and they were walkthroughs too. And the best spot on the truck was the last 3 stalls in the back facing backwards, where the horse would ride backwards. The groom had 10 feet before they came to the door, And then the door would be latched on the bottom. There would be a bar, and the Dutch doors open the top. They would put their chairs there and play cards or have uh, hay and straw, and that's how and that's how they they always wanted to go in there. So to make the long story short, when you shut that back door, there's a bar that's made specifically that snaps into a groove. You shut the bottom doors, you turn the handle, and that sends a pin up into
Right,
the
right,
crossbars and into the floor.
right,
Then you take the two top doors and you pin them back, for ventilation.
right. I
So,
remember exactly.
okay, so before we get to horses, I'd like to tell you a story, Larry. Uh, I was in the exact same courtroom that I was when Gutwall sued me, only this time a groom for Houghton was suing me. A young girl, she's a very nice girl, and she was on her way up from Florida in the back of this truck. There was two grooms in the front, and there was three grooms in the back, her and two guys. And we were coming out of Florida, and they were back there, and everything was. They stopped for lunch, watered the horses. I would say about 2:30 in the afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon. The three grooms in the back, the two guys and the girl, started partying. They started smoking pot. They started getting high and a little higher, and this and that. And one thing led to another. And the female groom, I think her name was Grace or Gracie, and one of the guys was kind of her boyfriend. And they started, things got carried away, and more pot, and after a while they were kind of making out, I guess, and one thing led to another, and then she started taunting him, and he was taunting her back, and and before you know it, she turned around, and she latched her hands on that back latch, facing backwards, and tempted that guy to have sex with her, and he did. Anyway, that latch came up, the door came up, and she went out the back of the truck at 80 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he caught himself. He didn't go. Anyway, so there's alarms in the truck and intercom. They stopped. Truck pulled over the side of the road. Now, those things. They got 600 twin aspirated Cummins in them. They're geared for 90 miles an hour. I'm sure they only go 80, 85. Who knows what they do? Anyway, it takes a while to stop those things. They don't stop on a dime. Truck took a half a mile or more to stop. The driver ran back. He found her. She was very lucky. There was no cars coming. She didn't get hit by a car. She did catch a severe case of road rash on her arms or legs, but the shoulder at that time wasn't paved. It was sodded, so she was able to at least go on the grass. You know what I mean, and not get totally messed up. She had no marks on her head at all. But
How
she was
fast were you going?
probably 75, 80.
And she didn't get killed?
No, no.
That's a miracle.
God looks out for babies and drunks. I think you have to add in people that are high too. She bounced down that road like a basketball. But she was high as a kite. Who knows why? But she hit a couple, 3, 4 times and was on the shoulder of the road. And the driver found her. She was moaning and groaning, but he said, we'll just stay here. Of course, she couldn't go anywhere. He ran all the way back to the truck, a mile down the road, put the four-ways on, backed the truck down to where she was. It took a while, and then got her in there and got off at the next truck stop. Called them. They sent found a little clinic over there, and they bandaged her up the best she could. She wasn't losing a lot of blood. She had a lot of road rash. It was a lot of skin missing, but nothing in her head. She was dazed. And we wanted to, admit her into the hospital, and she insisted, "No, I'm going back to New Jersey. I know she lived in northern Jersey, and that's where I'm going." So we brought her back to New Jersey. By the time she got off the truck, she was, she was hurting, but she was okay. And, I questioned the driver, I questioned the two guys, I questioned everything. So, of course, 6 months later, I get a summons, right? So she's suing me, the people that made the trailer, the latch company, and, and Woodbury Transportation. So they wanted 25% from the trailer manufacturer, 25% from the latch maker, and 50% for me. So, of course, I had to get the lawyer. We went, we talked and everything else. So we had to go to court. Eventually, we went to court. So I went up there and I explained to the judge, through questioning from my lawyer, how that door cannot come open, that the latch secured these pins to the top and bottom. You have to actually grab it and pull it up. I mean, what kind of energy and strength would you need to do that? Blah, 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 anything else. And we had in Spanish, in English, do not lean on, caution, do not lean on door.
Mhm.
So anyway, so I was all done. Her lawyer calls her witnesses up, calls the first guy up. I think his name was John. So he gets there and judge says, John, what happened? He said, we're in the back of the truck going north. He said, it's a big area. He said, we started partying, Your Honor. You guys, what do you mean? He said, smoking pot. He says, everybody smokes pot. He said, and, you're on 30 hours on the truck. What are you supposed to do? So he said, eventually we found something to do. So Jim and Gracie, they started getting amorous. They started getting carried away. She started taunting them. And it happened so fast, John, I didn't even know what happened. He said that, she leaned into the bent over and leaned into that back bar holding the crossbar. And he said, and they started performing coitus. The judge says, what? What the hell is coitus? Did you ever hear that word? I never did. Did you?
Coitus?
No.
Coitus, yeah. He
No.
said they start performing coitus. So the judge says, he says, what do you think that, this is a court of law. We don't need it. He said, I'm telling you, that's what it is. That's what happens when you perform it that way. So the judge says, I don't believe it. The courtroom was going crazy. She had all the grooms there. I'm saying to myself, I can't believe it. The courtroom is going crazy. The judge is pounding his thing down. Quiet, this and that. He says, oh, okay, continue. He says, so what happened? He says, all of a sudden, they started doing what I said they did. He says, I guess things got good. And bam, she must have grabbed the bottom of that doorman. He banged her right out the back door, Your Honor. The courtroom went crazy again. He's banging it. Quiet. I'm gonna clear this courtroom. He totally lost control of the courtroom. And then I noticed him. He just folded his arms. He just had a little smile because he knew he had to just wait that out, right? So they were going berserk. And we got done. He said, "You have anything else?" He said, "No, sit down." Got the second witness. Now these are her witnesses. Her lawyer says, did you just hear this, Jim? Did you just hear the testimony of John? He said, yes. He says, is that true and accurate? He goes, yes, it is. Do you have to add anything to it? No, I don't. Okay, sit down. They bring the girl up, Gracie. See, Gracie, one time on about October so-and-so, were you back in that truck? Yeah. And were you in the presence of John? Yes, I was. And what were you guys doing back there? Well, partying. We're smoking pot, weed, Your Honor, and that's what we do. And you heard the testimony of what actually happened, and maybe the cause, or probably the cause of why you went out that back of that truck? She says, yes, I do. Do you have anything to add to it? No, I don't. Is everything he said true? She said, yes, it is. He goes, you're dismissed. He asked my lawyer and her lawyer, could you please approach the bench? I heard him say, those are her witnesses. He brought them in. He said, I don't want to spend another 5 seconds on this trial. I don't want any of this in the testimony. I want you to go out in the hall and come up with a settlement and come back in here after I recess in 15 minutes. We all went out in the hall. My lawyer offered her $55,000. She said, can I get 60? We said, not a problem. Gave her the $60 and it was settled for that. But can you believe that she was living? When I picked Houghton up to go to Florida the next year, she's on that truck again.
Wow.
Shipped up, man. She wasn't mad. I even said to her, I said, how could you? She said, how could you go to court with these two witnesses and tell what happened? She said, I was, listen, anything with the trucking companies, you're going to get money. She says, I know, I'm going to just tell the truth, and whatever they throw at, whatever sticks to the wall, that's what I'll take. She wasn't so dopey, but she got, she got the money. I mean, I felt bad for her. I mean, she was no, was no swimsuit model, but nobody needs to have that. And after a couple of years, it started fading. But can you imagine that she didn't hit her head on the way out, and a car
It's
didn't run her over?
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
She get her arm ripped off. I mean, that's actually a true story. And like I said, and just stop that truck. Who knows? He might have been going 85. To stop that truck, like it took damn near half a mile to go. It's just
Unreal.
that's real. And like I said, I just thought I would share that with you. And also, I think now, yeah, I was going to say something about Heisa, but I'm not going to say it. Maybe next time Larry has me on. I have a whole thing written out and an idea how you get rid of Heisa. First of all, you just put Doge on him and just save that 80 million, right? Hire ex-trainers, veterinarians, people like Eddie.
We said that already. We said that already
Yeah.
from the beginning.
Have people like Eddie that has knowledge in harness horses and racing. A guy that got there and works and tries to make an honest living. Those are the people you have. Put Freddie in there. He's energetic, right? But you don't put.
I take that job in a minute.
Yeah, but a guy like you, but you or Larry that knows the horse. You don't put people, give them $80 million budget, and put people in there that don't know a horse, head to ass from a horse, right?
Yeah.
That's like hiring a lifeguard that can't swim. You know what
exactly.
I mean? You put those people in there, and I mean the girl must, she says he's nice. Freddie says the president's nice, so she's nice. Listen, the girl at the grocery store, that always puts my Stop and Shop card in when I forget, she's nice too.
Yeah, they're all nice,
But she
they
didn't know
don't
anything.
nothing.
She didn't know anything about my business. But what does she know? I noticed with the budget that Larry sent me, most of that budget is for attorneys. They must have anticipated having court cases.
Look down the line. All the people in the racing commission.
Yeah.
And even half of the judges, they're politically appointed. They know nothing about horse racing. I mean, some of them do. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, it's just a matter of what party wins the presidency that year.
That's right.
That's how they get their jobs.
That's right. But just knowing about horse racing, Joe, doesn't cut it. You have to know something about
That's the
horses.
most important thing. At least you could be fair.
You ever hear when Larry talks? He gets into this, and did this and the soft tissue damage and this. He knows it. He knows it. He knows how to cure a horse. He doesn't even like Lasix, when everybody and his mama gives it to him just to skirt around the issue, right?
Yeah, Lasix is not a good drug.
You need a guy like Larry.
I loved racing bleeders before Lasix.
Or a guy like you. Get retired thoroughbred trainers that still would like to, still have a little interest in the game. Honest ones, honest vets, ones that have little or no positives. But especially a guy like Eddie, who has a dual knowledge. And I'm gonna be honestly truthful with you. I'm not gonna knock anybody, but let me tell you something. I like to see some of these thoroughbred trainers hang up a freaking trotter that's clipping off his front right foot with his left rear when you give him his head, right, Larry? Let's see it.
That could never happen.
Yeah. Let him see how that could happen. Go out and make 18 breaks in one day to just give the horse away. But anyway, they're going about it the wrong way. If you were going to get a committee together to check out the efficiency and the clarity and everything about a hospital of the doctors and nurses and how they perform and anything, cleanliness, would you hire a plumber? Hell, let's get a bunch of plumbers down here and just let them read something and let them do it. That's how absurd it is, isn't it?
I was working last Sunday, a matter of fact, and at the I was, working at the market with the ice cream and stuff.
Yeah.
And his jockey, well, I'm not too far from Gulfstream. A retired jockey saw the picture of the horse in the back. Me and my father standing with a horse in a
Yeah.
winter circle. And it was a picture that I was driving. And he saw you at the horses. I says, yeah. He says, me too. And he says, man, he says, we got a lot in common with both horse people and blah, blah, blah. He says, I remember when I was a jockey, I didn't even ask him his name or nothing. We were just talking. I had a few people online. And he says, we did this at Yonkers. We raced the harness horses. And we went over there to race harness horses one night. He says, you guys are crazy. He says, it's so much more involved than what we do. He says,
Yeah.
you really got to, be out of your mind to do that. He said he was so scared, he said, to do that. When he could jump on any horse anywhere, but to do that, he says, you guys are out of your mind.
He's
Joe,
right.
move that camera down. We only see half your head. That's it. You got a
Okay.
beautiful neck. Show everybody.
Yeah, beautiful neck. Thanks for the compliment.
This past weekend, they had the Haskell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in journalism one, they've already fined that jockey for whipping him 2 more times than he should.
That's nonsense, especially the whips. They're not even whips.
And now they should look at goal oriented to finish second and Gosker to finish third. Take the guy that was the jockey of Gosker had to hit him 25 times. Just look at it. Go and look at it. But when the jockey of journalism, you know how before they jump up and they give the whip, they held the whip up. I got a close look at it. It has a piece of foam rubber this long.
Yeah.
On the end. There's no piece of leather. I don't think you could break an egg with it.
Yeah, you're right.
And which one of these non-experienced people figured out how many whips that you could, instead of 6, you could have 8? Which one of them figured that out? I don't know. It doesn't make it. It doesn't. I don't think that it really matters. But I would get rid of the whole stupid thing. You have to have something for the horses. There's no question. But I've been reading that a lot of the horses get broke down on a training track.
Of course.
Some of these training tracks, the surfaces aren't right in the morning, right? You may not do damage right then and there, but you started a little something,
If those tracks aren't maintained properly, a lot of damage is done during the week.
Yeah, I believe it. What I forgot to tell you, Larry, another guy well, one of my first trips to Yonkers to bring the horses over, one of my old beat up trucks, I brought over 7 head or 8 head for Ray Schnitker, and his father Warren was there. So that was his debut into Roosevelt Raceway when he got there. When I got done with him, I went right back and got Louis Gigante, 6 head. He had 6 horses there also. You know him, right?
Oh, sure, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
Yeah.
My friend Manny, who happens to be in the chat right now, he has a couple of real good. I think he has something like 4 or 5 horses, all good 3-year-olds. They all his horses earned over $300,000-$400,000 this year.
Yeah.
And he's with Ray Schnichter.
Yeah. Well, if Manny's in the chat, I'd like to ask him a question.
Well, he can hear you.
Can he hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Ask him ask him next time he sees Ray if he remembers me, Ron from Woodbury Transportation. I was the first person to bring him over from Yonkers to Roosevelt with his father. He bought an old car for me once he got at Roosevelt. He needed it. And then he claimed 2 horses off me. He claimed a horse called Maple Lanes Tyler, won 6 in a row with him. And then he claimed another horse called Scootalong off me and raised him. And we've always had a great relationship. That didn't bother me because I got my schooling from Louis right away about claiming when the horse is gone, it's gone. You don't even, it's over. And I thought it was very interesting. Maybe a year or 2 ago, Ray was having an interview, and some guy at the Meadowland asked him, I think it's when he had the horse Huntsville. I think he was a trainer of that, right? So that'd be like 4 or 5 years ago. But they said to Ray, what matters more to you, the horse or the driver? We got so many drivers at the Meadowlands. What matters? He said, horse. you got to have that horsepower. If you don't have a horsepower, you don't have anything. He says, I can pick one of any 10 drivers at the Meadowlands and they can put them where they belong.
Right.
So I listened to that statement, and it makes a lot of sense. If you don't have the horse, it doesn't matter who's driving him, right?
Of course.
Yeah. But anyway, okay. So I'll tell you a few things about some of the horses. Like last week, like I said, when I started, was with Gary Lewis. Yeah, we got that horse to Florida and sold him to Mickey McNichol. The next year, he made me buy 3 horses: All Star Way, New York Yankee, and Postseason. All Star Way was a beautiful trotter. Gary couldn't do a thing with him. We just had to give him away. Postseason, he got him racing, qualified, and sold him to Gary McNichol too. So now we were only left with New York Yankee. New York Yankee is by Speedy Crown out of Yankee Bambi. He was a full brother to Houghton's horse TV Yankee. He was a $250,000 yearling. John Simpson Jr. bought him. He raced him 10 times. He made 10 breaks. So he put him in the Harrisburg sale. And Gary told me to bid $8,000 for him. I went up to 12. We got him and brought him to Florida. Gary was annoyed. When I tell you to do something, make sure you do it. Okay. So, anyway, we did it. So he got the horse going. He had put shoes on backwards in the front, and he got this horse to trot. The first couple of qualifiers, the horse would make a break on the backstretch. It had like a weird, funny gait. The second he made that break and then got him back trotting, this is what Gary driving. Got back driving. It looked like he was on, 5 cylinders before, and now he's on all 8. Right? That horse could circle the field like you couldn't believe. Brought him to Roosevelt. The only horse that could beat him was Stanley's horse, Pigvar, and he was dual sired. We could race him in, because in New York Yankee we could race him in Maryland, because it was a Charlie Keller horse, right? And Speedy Yankee stands in New York, so we could go back and forth and pick whatever races we wanted. And he started to do good. A couple of races, Gary would come and circle the field with him. The horse would make a break. He'd drop back to last, get back on the trot, swoop, and win. Make the long story short, we won $250,000 with him, and people in Vernon wanted to buy him, wanted to give us $100,000, and I said, I think we can get more than that. And, Gary is a nice person, nice knowledge. Because what makes you think he was telling me what makes me think I know anything about anything. I said, so he says, came back a week later, we can get 150 for him. I said, nah, Gary, let's hold out for a little bit more. What are you holding out for? I don't know what you're holding out for. You wouldn't even have this horse if it wasn't for me. I said, Gary, you wouldn't have this horse if it was even for me. You told me to go to 8,000. Now I got it to 12. Got him up to $250,000 from the Swedes, right? So I was just playing with him. I said, I don't know. What do you think, Gary? This is honest. He says, I'll take that whip off the barn, and I'll chase you around the shed row with it. That's what he said to me. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Anyway, we sold him. We sold him for that. But while Gary was trying to perfect that horse, I had got the bug by winning with postseason. So my father-in-law had told me that he saw a nice horse that the Canadians have, way down here, Yves Breton and Dennis Normandine, and they all work together to tell you the horse is bad, so you sell it to them. You know what I mean? From their owner. Really, the race secretary told me that. So if you like that horse, keep him. He said, but these guys are going to tell you, he's afraid of the tractor and you can't handle. He didn't wear a boot one. He was good gait and everything. And the race secretary told me, just stick with him, he'll be all right. And I went and they wanted 30, and then we got to have 35. So I gave him the 35. The first race, non-winners he won 1. When non-winners of 2, he won that race right over there with Tom Harmer. And the next thing I do is I put him in the Pompano Beach Pace. The first horse he goes up against is Image in Motion. This is a $150,000 Joe Keiko horse. Wins with him. I get into the final, and I draw the outside. Tom Harmer leaves with him, and he makes a break. So that was very disappointing. So we brought him back to New York, and I gave him to Louis. And he, Lou Martinez, he made some changes and he did this, he did that. And um, there was a little series there that Larry Maller had, and there was like 4 divisions. He wins that first division in 2 minutes and 4/5. That's his picture right over there with Mike LaChance driving. And then he worked his way all the way up, won 2 divisions. Then in the final, Ray Redmond had a horse called Cretan Thunder, a big something thunder horse, that's what they call it, distant thunder horse. He just leaves, he draws, he goes. Doki drove mine, and he finished second. I put him in the North American Series. He did good. We went to Buffalo. He won in 57 flat, paid 152.50. He got beat. Yonkers one time. Mickey Nichols' horse parked him, and he got beaten. But he got all the way. So we go to the final in New Jersey, and they had this big Nero colt there that was about 5 years old. That Mel Turcotte drove. You know him?
Yeah.
Big tall guy, right? He actually had a horse called Me Got a Brett that was pretty good.
Me
So
got a bread.
Yeah,
George Hodges had that horse.
Yeah, but I was at Yonkers one night, and he's in there, and Louis said, "What are you doing in here?" And he said, he was like in his 7th race. He was in the first race. It was 8 degrees. The horse was just standing there, and he drove him. I don't know if he owned him or not, but he asked Louis, "You want to buy him?" He was by Flying Brett. He wasn't by Brett Hanover. And we had this. The horse was named La Courriere. All he did was leave and go to the front. He won every single leg, and in the final at Freehold, Mickey Nichols' horse, Double Bubba. They were all older than Long. Long Tall was 3. These horses were 4, 5, and 6. Right? When Mickey McNichol saw that he was getting parked and wouldn't beat him, right? He moved over and let me get out. I came up and I just got beat for second, which was exciting, And then we brought him to New York. He raced. He one night he was in the 3-year Open. He won a lot of them. All those pictures up there is when he won like 10 races. And Jerry Silverman called me and said, I'm sending Brian's Breeze over there to race in the Open on Saturday night. If he beats Long Tall, I'm going to send him to the jug. Richie Silverman was going to drive him. I said, okay, so send him over. So I said, what happens if he doesn't beat him? He says, don't worry, he will. That's what he says. Don't worry, Booby. That's how he used to call people, right?
Yeah.
Don't worry, Booby. He'll your horse is a good horse, but you won't beat him. It's okay. So I go and I tell Patterson Jr. that, right? And he never said 2 words about anything. And he said, oh, is that what he said? He said, yeah. So he said, okay. So I was walking away from him. He said, well, he's going to have to go in 56 to do it. Now, did these guys know they can do that already? Do they know they can get the horse there?
A guy like that, yeah.
The best I ever did was going 57 flat. He used to pay 57.2, 57.3, right? And it was a great race. It was a great race. And coming down the stretch, Richie Silverman's horse did hit him. He had him. He was on the outside. He had him. The Long Tall came back and beat him. I don't know if you can see that picture. Maybe I'll show you this one right here. That's the big one of it, way up there. But if you can see this, I don't know if you can. You can see it right here. Larry, look at it. You see right here? You see Richie Silverman right there?
Very hard to see, right?
Yes.
Right. And you see Brian's Breeze right there?
Yeah.
You
We
can
see it.
You can see how close that was, right?
Yeah.
I mean, his horse paced the same thing, actually. But you see, it's the track record. But I was real proud of that. But
The reason I was looking down at my phone, I just got a message from my friend Manny, who has a bunch of horses with Ray Schnichter.
right.
And he said he just got off the phone with Ray, and he wants me to send him a link. And I will send him a link. and I'm just writing to him, but because Manny has a habit of talking,
Okay.
talking, and talking, and I'm just sending him a link. I says I'm going to send you the link, but let Ron tell his story. I'm very interested. And Ron, you got maybe 4 or 5 comments here.
Yeah.
People say that they love listening to you because it's like listening to the History Channel.
Okay.
That's a great compliment. I'm gonna send Manny the link,
Okay, sure.
and don't be afraid. Manny's a good guy. Manny's a real nice
I'm
guy,
not.
and he has a lot of good horses.
I'm
But
sure he
don't
is.
be afraid to tell Manny, do me a favor, just shut up, and that'll stop.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, let me.
I might put it maybe a little differently than that, but
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's just very excitable. He never sits still. He's always running around, and a very successful guy in his own personal business and in the horse business. And I'm going to send him a link now. So anyway, go ahead. I'll send him this while
yeah.
you're.
So Jerry Silverman calls me up the next day. He says, "You know, Booby, you cost me a lot of money." I said, "How did I cost you a lot of money?" He says, "Well, I had people to buy Brian's Breeze before that race, and after they found out they got beat by a $3,500 yearling, they don't even want him." I said, "Well, what does that have to do with him? He still paced as good as Long Tall. He paced in 56 and 4 too." He said, nah, forget about it. They don't want him." So I said, "Well, I paid 35,000 for him. I mean, so at least something." But the bottom line is he broke the track record. Now, 3-year-old geldings. He raced 2 more times. He won. They brought a horse from the Meadows called R. Buciliphus. I don't know if you ever heard of that horse. It was a good horse. He was winning the Open, the 3-year Open. He got the rail. I got the 8-hole. I missed by a nose, beating him. The next week I win. And well, you see how that's real horse talk, right, Joe? You don't say I won. You go, we win, right?
We
So,
win. Yeah,
yeah,
we.
So how'd your horse do? We win. So the next week he breaks a coffin bone.
Oh boy.
Before that race, I'm going to my office, and Louis comes running out of my office. I got good news for you. I got good news for you. I said, what? He said, Anthony Schiavelli called me from Canada. He wants to buy Long Tall for 250,000. I mean, it wasn't good news to me, but I mean, Shea Valley is the guy that owns those horses with Robinson, Riyadh and all those good horses. So I said, Louis, I don't know. He says, what do you mean you don't know? You kidding me? He said, you made all that money with the horse, and he's going to give you $250,000. Don't be stupid. Take it. I'm begging you, take it. He says, you're going to make a mistake. You take it. He says, you never know what can happen. I said, Louis, I'm having fun with the horse. He says, you're not going to have fun with it if something happens to him. He
Yeah.
said, take that money, buy $225,000 horses and see what you can do with them, right? Or buy one good one. He said, you're turning down 250,000. I said, Louis, I can't do it. I can't do it. What happens the next week? Saturday night, he leaves, goes around that first paddock turn. I mean, the turn with the maintenance man in, jumps up in the air. They had to take him off the track. He broke his coffin bone right into the joint too. So it took a while to heal him up. And we finally got him back. And I had to put him in a claimer at the Meadowlands. He pays to 51. You know what I mean? And some guy claimed him off me right after that race. And then he dropped him down in class. And I said to Louis, I said, I just can't just leave this horse in some, all the other horses that got claimed, I was okay. I claimed him. I sent him to my friend Jimmy Dean, the guy who came with the horse from Florida, put him on his farm, and he sent me a picture of him the day he died. So,
All right, my friend Manny, I'm going to put him on the screen now. So,
okay.
Manny, this is you're welcome. Now, listen, Manny, you're my pal. Last night, you completely disrupted the whole show with all the noise, walking around.
Harry,
We knew what was in your refrigerator, everything. So, All right.
Larry, let me tell you something. First off, I have to apologize to you. I fell asleep a couple times. I don't know if you heard me, but people
Yeah,
said I was snoring.
we heard snoring. We heard
Oh,
you were shuffling around papers, and I mean it was a mess. It was a mess, and I planned on telling you this the next time I saw you. But I'm glad you came on tonight. But tonight I wanted Ron to tell. Ron has a million stories. You see the comments here. People are saying it's like listening to the History Channel. But I
Oh,
don't know if you
all
heard what
right.
he said. He wanted to ask you. He wanted to ask you to ask
Well,
Snicker if you remembered him. So I know
okay.
you have a lot of.
I just got off the phone with Ray. He just called me,
Uh-huh.
and we were talking for a couple minutes. But I will when I do speak to him, because I speak to him very often, almost every day we talk. So I'm definitely going to ask him. But Ron, I wanted to. The reason why I told Larry send me the link is because you and Joe were talking about the whips. I'm going to
Right.
tell you a story about the whip. I'm 42 years old, and I don't know if Larry told you, but who got me involved in harness racing was Frank Yanati. That's who I started with harness racing. Because, long story short, I went out with his daughter. I met Frank, and I fell in love with it. But I like animals, so I fell in love with it. Anyway, I want to tell you a story about the whip, and I want you and Joe to hear this story. And I'm not going to mention the driver's name because he's still a driver. I was in Monticello. Well, you know, when you come out of the paddock at Monticello, they have like that. I don't know. I'm talking about maybe 12 years ago. They have that picnic area over there where the people sit outside, smoke cigarettes. It's like right by the 3/4 pole. You
Uh-huh.
would consider. You know where I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a horse in the race. Again, I'm not going to mention the driver because he still drives. I was watching my horse go. My horse had the brakes put on him. He was going in reverse. He was just backing through the field. I was watching from the 3/4 pole standing up there. I'm 28, 27 years old. I was watching this driver whip this horse. To I can't even explain to you how bad he was whipping the horse. The horse was going in reverse. What are you whipping the horse for? He's going backwards already. Anyway, my horse gets back to the paddock. I look at the back, the back where they hit the whip on the hind legs.
Mm-hmm.
He had cut marks from the whip. He had whip marks that, it wasn't like an open cut, but you know what I'm talking about, how it pierces the skin.
Well,
Yeah.
they catch that blood vein on the inside of the thigh, and it just rips open. And he drips blood down to his ankle.
Well, let me
All,
tell you something.
all the welts from the horse, and the snapper probably does the worst damage
Right. Right.
of all.
So
But
I looked at this horse and I looked at the driver. And this driver, everybody claims he's a pretty tough guy. Well, I went right over to him. I said, listen to me. First off, you never drive one of my horses again. I said, but if I ever saw you hit a horse like that again, I beat the shit out of you from here to 17, back and forth, back and forth. He didn't say one word to me. That's
Huh.
what I wanted to tell you about the whip. But
Okay.
I don't know if they make
Okay,
whips like that anymore.
but the whip I'm talking about, you can't break eggs with them.
no,
So
well, he was
you have.
talking about your Manny's talking about the standard bred, the 4 or 5
Oh,
foot
oh
whips.
yeah,
You
yeah.
were
They
talking
do.
about
Right. You're
the
right, but anyway, that has changed. The driver can't take his hands out of any line to just hold the lines in one hand and whip them with the other. So while he's whipping them, he's actually free line and whipping the horse and he has the line in his right hand. That rein is shaking all over the place. You know what I mean? And that alone is
Yeah,
is,
but
is, is scaring the horse.
yeah,
They,
but
Manny,
Ron,
what you're saying, Manny, what you're saying is total abuse. I think I know the driver that you're talking about, and if it's the same driver, he's a top driver. But every once in a while, you get one of these horses, and when a horse starts backing up, cheating, or pins his ears, every driver would give him 1 or 2 good shots to make sure that he's not cheating on him. And if he keeps backing up, you're supposed to just put the whip under your arm and just go around the racetrack or let him
right,
pull stuff
right.
up. That means there's a problem. It happens very, very rarely, and guys that do that continuously, like the guy who drove your horse, I'm sure the judges called him in. I'm sure he got fined. I'm sure he got reprimanded. And you were very, I think what you did, even though it was the right thing to do, even though it was against the rules and everything. But that happens very, very rarely. Now let Ron continue with these stories. I'm enjoying
Okay.
the stories.
Okay. Manny, how old are you?
42,
And when were you born?
82.
Okay. You were born 1982.
Just before you go, Ron, wait 1 second, Ron. Before you go, I just want to tell you about the whip today because I still go to a lot of the races. A lot of these
Okay, go
drivers
ahead.
today at Yonkers and everywhere, they don't even hit the horse whip anymore. They hit the
Yeah.
they hit the what's it called, the jog
The
cart.
shaft. Yeah.
Most of these guys don't even hit the
Yeah, I
horse.
was
They
talking
hit the
about
shaft of the
thoroughbreds.
jog
I
cart.
was talking about the thoroughbred where
Okay,
these fines are implemented unjustly and undiscriminately. You were born in 1982.
82. Yeah.
Okay, so I was shipping Ray Snicker 12 years before you were born. That's how old. That's how old I am. And like I told Larry, I brought him and his father down from Yonkers, went right back and got this guy called Louis Gigante on this piece of junk trucks I had. And since then, things have progressed. We were friends. I had a repair shop. He would come in there. I sold him a car. He claimed horses off of me. He claimed a horse off me one night. Came in the shop the next day. Never even mentioned it. And I never mention it because when you're in that kind of a game, that's what you do. If you can't handle it, you want to boohoo about it, you go get yourself a job at a car wash or something. But not in this kind of a game.
You're
But
a thousand percent right. When you're
e-
in the claiming game, you
yeah,
have to expect
ever
that, act like a champ.
ever since, and now you can ask him this question too. Now it might be questionable that he remembers this. It might be questionable that his memory doesn't isn't capable of grasping the true facts. I told Joe this, so I'm going to try to make this as nicely as possible. Including my father-in-law, who worked at Pompano, and the trainers there, which I used to walk through the barn area every single day. They would say, "You want like this horse? Take a look at it." Anyway, I was going to the races one night, and I went to the back gate where you could walk along the back grandstand into the place. And a friend of mine was leaning on the, I'm not going to say a friend, an associate of mine was leaning on the fence, and he came up to me and he says, "Have you seen any horses? You got any horses?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I got a couple picked out." I said, I bought a nice Michigan bred for $35,000 that is staked heavily with the fairs. I don't know how good you can go around in the fairs because those things are the thing, but the fairs go for 150,000 finals. So I paid $35,000 for him. He said, "Where did you get him?" I said, "I bought him from Gordon Norris." Gordon Norris was the first barn on the racing side. He had blue, red, and silver colors. Class outfit.
Sharp
Class out.
guy, good
Sharp,
trainer.
sharp guy, good trainer. I never brought his horses down from Michigan, but I always brought him back. Right. So my his wife was in the cocktail lounge. And he told my father-in-law, "Have your son come by." Gordon wasn't happy with the ship he got down here. He wants to talk to him about taking the horses back to Michigan. I ran right over. I said, "Gordon, what can I do for you?" He said, "This guy brought me down on a 3-horse van with a 6-horse van and a broke down van." He said, he said, "I got 27 head." He said, "How many trucks are you going to use to take them back?" I said, "3, 9 on each one." He says, "Okay, you do it." So he said, "You interested in a nice little Indiana bred horse?" I said, "A Michigan bred." I'm sorry. So I looked over, and there was this a big, long looking thing. He looked like Falcon Seals to me. That kind of horse, big, long. And I said, "How much do you want for him?" He said, 35,000. I said, "Can he go around a half mile?" He said, "I'm not so sure." He said, "But race him at the Meadowlands, and at the end of the season, race him in Michigan." I said, "All right." He says, "Now take a look at this horse." Shows me this horse, beautiful looking colt, big and everything. "How much you want for him?" 100,000. You know what his name was? Covert Action.
Mm-hmm.
You ever hear of him?
Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Manny, have you ever heard of him? You might be too young to hear him.
Man, he's
I
too
never,
young.
I never heard of him.
Okay, well, that horse put Ray on the map. That bought Ray a farm. That bought Ray everything. The horse made. Who knows how much he made? But I mean, I can tell you, 1,230,000.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he said, really? He said, yeah. I said, so he said, Ronnie, you really? I said, Gordon, I don't have that kind of money. I said, he said, I'll take back the silver spoon, and he said, I'll tell you what. How about if you give me free trucking to whatever the trucking is to Michigan, I'll take it off the thing and the price of the horse. Well, those days I was getting 2,500 a load. It was at $7,500. I still didn't have $92,000. So I said, okay. So I said to this guy, I'm not going to mention his name because if I tell you his name, you would know right from the get go who it is. I told Joe, and I'll tell you off screen. All right, Larry? But I'm not going to tell. So I said, yeah, he has this nice horse. He said, but I don't know if anybody knows about him yet, or I don't know this or that, because it sounded like he just gave me. 2 days later, I see Ray Schnicker training the horse. Oh, okay. I see this guy maybe up at the grandstand a week or two later, and I said, he said, oh, how do you like that horse you got, that SF Silverspoon? I knew right from the beginning the bullshit was coming. You know what I mean? I said, and how do you like the horse you got? Well, what do you mean? I said, you know what I mean. He said, oh, he wouldn't answer me. So, like I said, there's always a possibility that maybe Ray knew him without this guy, right? But anyway, Ray ended up with him, and he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll look out for you. I'll take care of you in the future. He was a horse agent. I'm sure you figured that out, right?
Yeah.
So he said, okay. So anyway, 3-4 weeks later, I go back to New York. Ray gets the horse going. My little horse, and I bought another horse at that time called City Boss. He was by landslide out of a Henry T. Adios mare, old mare. But sometimes those old mares can throw some good ones out with young blood. You know what I mean? And he made 250,000. Anyway, so he had quick speed, but Covert Action had high speed. And the horse looked like it was going to be something. He won the George Morton Levy. I think he won 2-3 years in a row with him, right? I mean, he
Yeah.
made a ton of money there. He had a swimming pool. He swam them. He did everything. So 3 weeks later, this guy comes in the office. He goes, I told you I'd look out for you. I got a horse for you. I said, okay. Louis was in there. Louis Martinez was my trainer, and he shows us a video. This is a big town, a colt, and he goes like this with his feet. And Louis said, that's a daisy cutter. Do you know what that is, Larry?
Yeah, they stay low to the ground.
Yeah. So Louis said, you don't want that horse. He said, they get sore in the shoulders and in the haunches. You can't race him every week. You want to race every week. Right? So this guy goes, there's nothing racing. Well, they're racing him up at Buffalo. Right? I said, how much do they want for him? He says, 40,000. Louis says, up to you. I said, I'll give you 35 for him. I said, but I want all his equipment. Now, every horse I bought, I always make them give me the equipment. I must have had 20 harness bags with 20 different trainers' names on them because and part of the deal was the equipment. I don't want to go there and start fiddling around with hobbles and this and that. And you say, why would I be doing it? Because when I got the horse to the barn, Louis might not even know I had the horse for a day. You know what I mean? I like to just do stuff like that.
No, that's a good move because
Yeah,
a lot of times back then they had equipment cards, but you don't always get them.
Yeah, so
Instead of guessing,
I would get Larry. They'd have the Murphy blind in there, everything, and like I said, I would get a stall ready in Louis' barn. I would put him in there, and now Louis, when I had the first horse, Long Tall, I spent 2 weeks grooming that horse. He taught me exactly how to groom a horse, what to do them, how to clean them, how to clean underneath them, this and that, and I would jog them. You know what I mean? Put them back, clean them. At the end of the month, I would say to Louis, do I get a break like on one groom here? Because, there's one groom you didn't have to put on this horse. So anyway, I brought him back there and I noticed how, Ray Schnicker's horse was doing good. So Louis said, if you want him, okay. And I said, what do you think? He said, you're not going to race him every week. He said, I'll tell you right now. Because I guess when they go like this, the shoulders here and the haunches get sore, right? So that's what Louis told me. So I said, I'll
Well, the
give you,
race cutter usually have straight shoulders and
yeah,
yeah, with no gait, no
yeah.
stride, no nothing.
So he told me, he said, I said, I'll give you 35,000. He said, all right, he goes to my other office. He calls, he's whispering back and forth. Blah, 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 blah. He said, okay, he'll take it. I said, all right. I said, where did I get the horse? He said, I'll tell you. Don't worry about it. He said, I'll call you tomorrow and give you all the information. I said, all right. Tomorrow comes. I almost said his name. Tomorrow comes, no call. The next day, no call. Finally, the third day, I call him. I said, hey, what's up with the horse? You know what he says? What horse? I said, what do you mean,
Well,
what horse? The horse you came down to show me. The horse that I paid. Oh, he's gone. I said, what do you mean he's gone? He's gone. Somebody else bought him. I said, who bought him? He says, Eric Cherry. I said, Eric Cherry bought him? I said, how the hell would he know that? He goes, I told him. I told him, you're not my only customer. I said, well, I didn't think I was ever your customer, but you told Eric Cherry we had a deal. Well, he paid $5,000 more. I said, well, don't you think that you tell the guy that you were selling the horse for? Listen, I got another guy. He offered you 35. You took it. You want another 5. Let me see if he didn't want to sell it. He wanted to sell it to Eric Cherry. You know what I mean?
I know who the agent was.
Yeah. Okay. He said he wanted to sell it to Eric Cherry, right? All he had to say to me is, listen, Eric Cherry's bidding $5,000 more. I would have let it go because, like Louis was querying me off the horse to begin with, right? So, looking back at it, I see his business. I'm not upset now. But at that time, I thought it was a bitch ass move. You know what I mean? To do something like that. And from then
It
on,
is, and it always will be.
yeah. From then on, when I would see him, and I said to him, oh, by the way, how you told me you look out for me? Don't look out for me anymore. I don't need any more. I don't need any more favors from you. So, in the years, I would see him because he always was hanging around at night somewhere. I never paid him no mind, in any way, shape, or form. So that's now Ray might say, oh, so and so from there called me. I went down. The bottom line is Ray found out that the bottom line, if Ray wants to research it, I was the one that got the word on that horse to him somehow, some way. But I mean, like I said, we didn't have any problems with him in any way, shape, or form. I raced. I would race against him all the time. I had that repair shop. He needed anything. Like I told you last week, I would help anybody at any time. So that's my story. Meantime, SF Silver Spoon won in the Meadowlands, 3-4 races. The season got over. I sent him to Michigan. At that time, you believe Larry Maller was the race secretary in Michigan, and he was in the races. We went there. You ought to see this racetrack, Larry. It's a complete circle. The fair tracks, right? SF Silver Spoon made 3 breaks and still won his division. Pete Wren said, now I had to go in the final, right? So Pete Wren told Big Bill, who was the guy that brought him up on the truck, he said, bring those hobbles up 4 inches, put this Murphy blind on the left side, right? And he says, I'm gonna race him on the outside. And in the final, coming around the last turn, the horse made a break. Peter Wren gathered him up. He got going and just nosed out the final. I wasn't home. I wasn't back to the hotel, and some guy said, I live in Michigan. Is there any way you would sell me this horse? Because now he could race as a 4-year-old. He was a 3-year-old there. I said, how much you want to give me? Would you take 50,000? I said, right now. I wasn't going to deal with that breaking shit and everything like that because I figured you're not going to be able to go around Yonkers. I had never raced him there, but I mean that was just I didn't lose money on the horse, but that I just threw the name of him in there just to get the covert action in there. One year in Florida, I bought a little Romeo Hanover horse called Champagne Willie. Beautiful little horse, 45,000. Went over to the barn. There's this trainer. He comes from Champagne Valley Farms. Young guy. He knew his shit. I told Joe this already. He knows this stuff. So I said, the there's no bargaining with him. Some woman owned it, and the minute you bargained, they threw you out of the stable. So he said, he said, would you be interested in a 2-year-old? I said, no. I said, I like to race my horses right now. He said, Champagne Willie was a 3-year-old. He said, well, he says, I got a 2-year-old here. This actually was ended, like in March or April, right? He says, I'm trying to train him down. He said, this probably could be the best horse you ever got, ever heard. I said, how much you want for him? He said, 90,000. I said, 90,000. I said, okay. I said, I already bought a couple. I couldn't buy him if he was 50,000. He says, well, you better go give those horses back and come back here and get your $90,000 together. He said, because this will be the best horse you're ever going to have. Guess what that horse's name was, Larry? Jake and Elwood.
Wow.
You've heard of him, right?
Jake and Elwood, yeah.
Yeah, right. Doc Sieber bought him. Doc Sieber bought him. He earned. Excuse me for a second. Where is he? $2,273,187. He was by a stallion called Samadhi. Right?
Yep.
No one ever heard of him, right? But you know who his dam was? Princess Sam, the dam of Sun Sam. That's where those dams come in and start kicking out those good horses. Everybody heard of Sun Sam, right?
Yeah, I think all the guys that people pay to pick out yearlings in the at the sales book, I think all of them agree with you that probably 70% of the ability comes from the dam.
Yeah.
So I think they all agree with you.
Yeah, we had a customer. His name was Dana Irvin. He had a farm down in Florida. Did anybody ever hear of him?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, a great guy. When you give somebody the rate for shipping the horses, you got like the 1-horse rate, 3-horse rate, 9-horse rate, and then we had to have the Dana Irvin rate. Because he was whatever the cheapest 9-horse rate was, he'd want the rate past that wasn't even printed yet, But he was a nice guy. He said to me, first minute I saw him in Florida, got a great horse for you, gonna be the best horse you ever had. Go get the vet. He said he'll vet out. If he doesn't vet out 100%, I'll pay for the vet. I said okay. He goes over there. I get the vet. He vets him out. Vet said this horse doesn't have a pimple on him. I said, how much you want for him, Dana? He says, 200,000. A 3-year-old. I said, 200,000. I said, holy smoke! What's the best you can do? 200,000. The name of that horse was Red Bowtie.
Wow.
He was by Raging Glory. Raging Glory is by Big Towner. So I'm not going to say the ones that got away. It's it was never in my price range.
Larry, he's in one of those races I sent you, Red Bowtie. Remember the ones from the Meadowlands I sent you?
Yeah.
Red Bowtie's in one of those races before my horse race.
Monty Gilrod ended up with him.
Yeah, it's some horse.
As a trainer. We were out in Lexington, Kentucky, and I asked, and like I said, I was friends with all these people, close friends. I asked Mike LaChance, I said, if you see any nice 2-year-olds out there that you think are for sale, could you let me know? So one of my agent calls, he says, Mike's on the phone. I remember it like it's today. So he said, Ronnie, he said, Mr. LaChance. I said, yes, what's up? He said, I drove a nice horse yesterday. A nice 2-year-old, at the end of the season, he's going to be 3, right? Right. He said, he's a big, strong albatross colt. He said, they only want 65,000 for him. Right. He said, but I want to be truthful with you. He said, he went in 55-2 yesterday. I drove him, won him 55-2. He said the racetrack was lightning fast. He said horses that weren't going anywhere near what they expected were going fast. So I just want to tell you, he's a big, strong albatross colt, wears no equipment. I don't think he's going to make you more. I don't think he's going to make you back the money that you're going to pay for him as a 3-year-old. I think he's the kind of horse that is get 4, 5, and 6. This horse, sound is $1 and everything.
Come
And a
right.
guy, uh, and a guy named Dick Richardson Jr. had him. Right. So I called Dick Richardson up and asked him, "What's the best you could do?" He had just, he was a nice guy, but he got no personality either. And he said, "How much did I ask?" I said, 65. He says, "Good. Now give me 70." I said, "Okay." I think I'll pass. I said, anyway. So I spoke to Mike. I would always go out there, and he said, "The horse is going to grind out, 55, 60 for you." He said, "But, you'll put him in the graduate and stuff like that, and he will make a good horse." Well, the horse made $38,000 as a 3-year-old, right? 38,000 as a 3-year-old, and after that, uh, he was sold to somebody else, races a 4, 5, and 6-year-old, and earned $1,435,000. So,
Wow.
so I guess Mike knows his horses, doesn't he?
Mike called me the other day, and he talked to me for about 20 minutes, and he wants to come back on the show.
Good.
And
I'd like to be on when he comes on.
that's what I was going to say. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah,
Mike,
but I mean,
Mike has a bit of a problem right now. Not a serious problem, but I can't tell you what it is. But so he can't come on for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Then he's going to call me when this situation is over with, and
Yeah.
he's going to come on. And I think it'd be great if you come on with him, because I think it'd be a great show, and you
Yeah.
have a lot of stories about him,
Yeah.
and he has a million
Well,
stories.
well, a lot of this story, I think that maybe your listeners may have got by them, and I don't mean any disrespect. And one of them was, "What is Michael Chance doing calling this guy?" Right? He's a Lexington meet on every other horse. Why would he call me? Right? Because that's the kind of guy he was. Because when we were friends for years, and when I asked him if you see anything, and he called me. He was right in the shop, and like I said, David Horse's red bow tie, and I'm sorry, ball and chain, but he hit it right on the head. He's not going to make more than 50, but he made that, and he won. I just put up his. If you Google him, you'll see he won Canadian Payson Derby. He won this race. He won that race. He won so many races. It was unbelievable.
Mike's a great guy, and Mike. What a lot of people may not know, because Mike switched to strictly a catch driver, but Mike is one of the best horsemen around. Very, very, very sharp.
Yes.
Really sharp. He get off a horse, and I watched this. I witnessed this. He'd get off the horse, and just like you say, just plain and simple, just let his hobbles out 3 inches, lower his head a couple of inches, and just stuff like that, and work with you and help you meet. And this is what saved. I mentioned this last night. This is what saved a lot of inferior trainers, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but a lot of trainers that got into the game. They know the basics, but they if you get a problem horse, or if you have to, in other words, they're the kind of trainers that say, look, just like you said, sell me the horse and give me the equipment, and then they have the equipment and never change nothing, just leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
When all these top trainers in Campbell and O'Donnell and a lot of these catch drivers, Ron Pierce, Catello Manzi, all of these guys with top trainers and good horsemen before they quit in the 80s and just became catch drivers. Them guys, they were able to get off a horse that they drove for a mediocre trainer and say, listen, if I was you, I'd let them hobbles out. If I was you, I'd lower his head. If I was you,
Right.
I'd just get that head pole off, or put a head pole on the other side or something like that. And they would help these. There was only one top trainer, and I'm not going to mention his name because I could talk very bad about him, and I won't mention his name because I don't like him. But he was a real scummy fucking guy who was a top driver in the Hall of Fame. Not a nice guy, good driver. I raced with his grandfather, his father, and he was nothing like them. And but outside of him, all of these other drivers, they would help you come on, and they helped a lot of these mediocre trainers that really didn't know how to rig up a horse, or a horse that you hop on a horse for the first time and he's smashing his knees, and
Right.
the driver would come back and just stand at his head and say, "Listen, if I was you, I'd do this and this and this and this." And they helped a lot of mediocre trainers, and Michael Chance was one of the best at that.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, he was great.
it'll be a good show when he's on
Yeah.
with.
Hervé was the same type of guy.
Yeah,
Who was that, Joe?
Hervé
Hervé.
Gilliam.
Yes. Oh, I can tell you what he did with my friend's horse. He just told him, take all this shit off him, and he won the
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah, I feel terrible now because because Manny now, since I know Manny, this is the longest he went without saying a word. And I feel terrible because now he's just sitting there, and I know he's like a sponge, Manny. He listens, he talks to everybody, asks a million questions, he absorbs everything, very, very smart and very, very sharp, but it's like he's on a high all the time. And it's hard for him to sit still. And I feel bad now that I basically said, just let Ron tell his story. But anyway, I thank you, Manny. I hope I didn't insult you.
Oh,
But
anytime you want to say anything, Manny, feel free.
No, but Larry, I know the guy you're talking about. I'm not going to mention his name, but I even know who you're talking about.
yeah. Another thing, Manny, I just want to mention this because I'm sure you're going to come on a lot of the shows. We hear every third word. And the same thing last night. We hear like every third or fourth word. Your thing goes out, the speaker goes out. I don't know why. I know you're on your phone. I don't know why that happens, but it gets blurry sometimes, and I don't know why. But I just want to mention that because sometimes you say something and we hear every third word, and I don't know how to respond. I don't know what you said. But anyway, go ahead, Ron.
The snoring was clear, though, Manny. The snoring was clear.
I would go to Florida every year, and I would have a list of 3, 4, 5 horses that I would like. After I got there for about a week, I would go to barn. I would look at the program, and back and forth. So one year, I saw this horse that I really liked. I went to the guy's barn. I asked about it, and the name of the horse was Mountains Melody. He was by Chris Time. He looked like a freaking plow horse. That's how big he was. Big old horse. And Kevin Wallace had him. And he was winning the Open with him every week.
Another good horseman.
Yeah. So I said, Kevin, how much you want for him? He said, 80,000. I said, oh man, you guys' price is unbelievable. He said, well, buy something else. He says he wins the Open. And all he did was leave with him, go to the front and win. I said to myself, I can't afford that. I can't afford the 80,000. So I'm looking around. I had another horse on my list, and I go, a friend of mine who I bought horses over, Abe Stolfus. He's dead now.
Abe died?
Abe Stolfus, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's the Amish kid that left the Amish community and
Yeah.
party all the time.
Yeah. Now listen to this. You're gonna be shocked with this, Larry. He said, I got a nice horse for you. I said, yeah. I said, what's the name of this? Where is he? He showed me. He said, I just brought him in from his 2-year-old year. This is now January. We want to race him as a 3-year-old. I said, okay. He said, he's 100% sound. He doesn't wear a boot. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. This horse can get around a half-mile track like you can't believe. I said, how much you want for him? He said, 60,000. So I said, 60,000? What's the matter with him? He said, nothing's the matter with him. He's fine. I said, okay, he got his papers? He said, yeah. I said, can I look at him? He said, yeah. I look at him. The horse had 22 starts as a 2-year-old. 22.
That's the Amish in him.
Okay, the horse was by Niatros, right? I'm not going to tell you his name yet. Anyway, 22 starts. So I said, oh, man. I said, hey, 22 starts. This horse, how'd you race him 22 times? Oh, we got him racing these races. We don't count them. One of them is like an 8th mile and whatever. So I go around and I'm talking to a few of my friends, which a lot of times you shouldn't, right? And they say, Ronnie, you're nuts if you buy that horse. That horse was a 2-year-old 20. Nobody races 2-year-old 22 times. So I went back, Abe, A lot of guys tell me, you know, when you're desperate, there's a lot of guys tell me that he said, oh, who gives a shit what they say? I'm telling you, buy this horse, buy this horse. I said, how much you want? He said 60,000. He said, okay. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. Ray Remen wants him, and if you don't have him bought by the weekend, forget about it. I said, okay. So I gave him the money, and this was my mistake. I used to have a shuttle leaving every Wednesday, going to Meadowlands in Yonkers. I was going to put, and I bought the horse on a Monday. I was going to put him on Wednesday, and he went. I didn't get enough horses for that shuttle for that Wednesday, so I postponed it to Friday. Right here, Ray Remen comes in, and he tells Abe Sophus, "We want that horse." So he said, "You know, I already sold it to him." He said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He said, "You go back and buy it back from him." So he comes, he says, "Ronnie, listen." He said, "I don't know why." He said, "Abe Sophus want that horse." He said, he wants to offer you 70,000, $10,000 profit. I said, "No, I don't know. I need the money." I said, "But I don't want it." So then I'm thinking about that Kevin Wallace horse, right? And like I said, if you saw this horse, you wouldn't even buy it. It looked like a plow horse. He had hoofs on him this big. So I said, "Tell him I want 80,000." He said, "Will you sell him for 80?" I said, "Yeah, I'll sell him for 80." So he come back, and they were like, the owner was like trying to slick talk. You're taking advantage. I didn't ask you to come here, right? It's my horse. You don't want him. You want him for 85. If you don't, I don't want to talk about it anymore, right? I said, my truck's leaving the day after tomorrow. I'm going to put him on there. He said, okay, we'll give you the 80,000. So they give me 80,000 for him. I run right over to Kevin Wallace. I said, will you take the 80 for that horse now? He says, I want 90. He says he got good. He got good lately. So I said, oh, screw it. I'm not going to get him. So anyway, I forget. I went back and I bought a horse called Cool Flying Fella. Cool Flying Fella was by not Precious Fella, but the other fella. Anyway, and nice little horse, 35,000. I take him right to New York, give him to Dick McCumber. I go to Meadowlands Horses in Vernon. I must not have made myself clear, Dick. I said, I don't, any horses I buy, I want to see them race. All right, I'll bring him down here. So he races them in Vernon in summer, and he wins. He brings him down here, and I go get the program. Now this horse has like 5 lifetime starts. The couple's a 2-year-old 5. I go get the program. He got him in the 3-year-old Open. I could have put him in non-winners of 3, 4, non-winners of anything. He's got him in the 3-year-old Open. I said, Dick, why is he in the 3-year-old Open? Because he can go with him. I said, I know, but I mean, he'll be able to go with him in a month from now, right? The horse just gets photoed out for first. So anyway, he won like 5 in a row with Campbell driving him. And I had a lot of fun with him. He's the horse that I said he trained in 56 flat to a jog cart. And the horse was the size of a pony. I brought him to Florida, put him in the Pompano Beach Pace. He won all three legs in the final with Wally Hennessy driving him.
Oh,
And,
by the way, let me just say this. I forgot to do this the other day. Wally Hennessy just won his 12,000 race at Saratoga.
oh, good.
So
Congratulations.
congratulations to Wally. And
Yeah.
how did Snickter do with the horse that he bought from you for 80,000?
No, he bought him for 100,000.
No, you said that one you bought for
No,
60.
that was Ray Remen.
Oh, Ray Remen.
Yeah,
I thought you said Snickter. Okay.
No, Ray Remen. So now he's gone, right? Now let me tell you what the name of the horse was. Pilgrim's Patriot. I go home. Now I forgot all about him. I go home. I drive into the driveway. I get home about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Nothing going to drive. I had a big house in Laurel Hollow, a circular driveway. The next day, I go out and get the mail. I walk out to the mailbox. My mailbox was 150 feet from my house. I walked out, open the thing, and there's Horseman and Fairworld. And on the cover of Horseman and Fairworld is a horse from the 10 hole with Donnie Dancer driving him with his whip up in the air. And it says, Pilgrim's Patriot wins Yonkers Big Apple Pace. It took me 2 hours to walk back into that house staring at that cover. Can you imagine that? Should have never sold that freaking horse. I mean, can you imagine if Donnie Dancer comes on? I'll come on and ask him about that horse. And like I said, I
Donnie
took
Dancer, I could have him on. He was on a couple of months ago. He called me up.
Larry, I'm looking through my mail. You know, the first thing you do is you look through, make sure there's nothing from the IRS in there, right? So I look at that and I take it out and I went, "What the fuck?" And there he is. He's in the middle of the racetrack. There isn't a horse around him from the 10 hole. Donnie Dancer just sitting there with him like the Pilgrim's Patriot wins Yonkers Big Apple Pace. I said to myself, "Holy shit!" You talk about one that got away. You want to know how much money he made? 2,640,000.
You want me to have him on when LaChance is on?
Sure, but Donnie Dancer used to drive a lot of Louis horses for me. But I'm just saying, can you imagine? You got it in your hand. You got it in your hand and it's gone, right? Small world. Small world. Okay, I got one more. I'm at Yonkers. I need a horse to go home. Pompano got a horse to go home. Like I said, I claimed Maple Lane's Tyler. I raced it 3 times. Ray claimed him off me. Won 6 in a row with him. I see a horse there.
What Ray? Ray Snichter or Remen?
Ray Snichter. And then I had another horse called Scooter Long. He claimed that too. Anyway, I saw a horse in Pompano that I liked. His name was Biowazi. He was only a $30,000 claimer. But, in New York, they're a 20 claimer, right? Or 15 claimer. So I put my claim in on him, didn't get him. I said, Ray Remen gets him. Takes him back. And after I'm back in New York a couple of times, I got the Yonkers Meadowlands program. I see he wins. at the Meadowlands, pretty good time. Ray Remen driving him. A week later, I had a horse that Champagne Willie was in. I'm flipping through the program. The very next race, I see Biowazi. I told him, let's wait one more week. That horse that we didn't get, Biowazi, he's racing next week. Let's see how he does. She says, okay. She says, we didn't get him anyway, but we'll look at him. So anyway, the race goes off. He gets away second, and he's following this horse all the way around the racetrack. Biowazi comes to the half. He's sitting in the pocket. The bay, still right behind him. He goes around the last turn. I said to my wife, this horse is going to win for fun. I said, he's getting a trip you wouldn't believe. Turned for home. He doesn't even pull him. Biowazi's sitting right behind this horse in front of him, right? Well, this horse paces off by 5 lengths, and Biowazi staggers off and bashes into the wall and dies. Just drops dead right on the track, right past the finish line at Roosevelt Raceway. So I said, oh, my God. My wife says, thank God you didn't claim him. I said, yeah. So the guy that's working for me goes, forget that shit. Take a look at the horse that won. That's the horse that you should go after, Ronnie. So I look in the program. The name of the horse is Fairfella, Clint Galbraith's horse. He's a 4-year-old, precious fella out of the airliner mare. He had non-winners and nothing. He just come from Buffalo and won in 58 and come back in 56. And then he wins at Roosevelt and 57 flat, like his 3rd lifetime start. I didn't know that he was a package from that L.C. Berger that Galbraith was training, and then they didn't even train him and start training him until he was a 4-year-old, So he's a big chestnut-looking horse. So I said to myself, I got to buy this son of a bitch because he go all the way up the ladder, right? I run home and I call his wife. And those, when you're a horse guy, you're desperate. You do what Manny does. You call somebody 11:30 at night. You don't give a shit. You just want to say something. So I call her 11:30 at night, and I said, what's her name? It doesn't matter. She was that DeGennaro daughter. They had Rodney Farms, and she inherited it from him. You remember Duke Rodney and all those?
Yeah.
Ed DeGennaro, that was his daughter. I don't know. I forget. It's on the tip of my tongue. Doesn't matter. Real nasty. I said, I know that Clint's not home yet, but could you please tell him to call me when he gets home? I'm really interested in buying the horse he raced at Roosevelt tonight. She says, what's the name of that horse? I said, Fairfella. She says, I'll tell him, but he's not going to call. You better call him tomorrow morning on Sunday. So, I'm trying to be courteous. So I wait till 10 o'clock. Call him. He gets on the phone. Yeah. 0 personality. Never gave me one horse to train ever. In fact, he wouldn't even talk to me. If I
He
would
was
talk
a
to him,
creep. He was a creep anyway.
he just turned his back. I said, "Can you just listen? I'll give you. You coming out of Florida? Whatever price Brooke, let's give you. I take $50 a horse off." Oh, you think I'm that hard? I said, never mind. So I said, you raced that horse tonight, Fairfella. Is he for sale? He says, yes, he's for sale. And he says that I want 50,000 for him. I'm not taking a dime less. I said, okay, I'll give you the 50,000. He says, I'll be down at Roosevelt on Tuesday around 10 o'clock at the race office to make entries. He said, if you're not there to buy the horse, I'm going to enter the horse. Right? I said, I'll be there. I said, but I can have him, right? 50, 50. I said, okay. Go to work on Monday. I'm walking from my shop back to my office, and there's Louis' station wagon, and there on the front page is the program from Roosevelt that night, folded over with "Fair Fella" circled in big red print. And I look in there and says, "Holy shit! What is Louis?" I mean, Louis not stupid, but I mean, what is he doing? So I went in there. I say, "Hey, Louis, how you doing? What's up?" I happened to look in the front seat of your car. You have Saturday's program there with "Fair Fella" circled on there. What are you doing? Oh, I'm buying them for Barry Rubenstein. Yeah, you remember a guy, a Jewish guy, had big head of white fuzzy hair. Robbie Siegelman took him after Louis, right?
Yeah,
He was an inventor, tons of money. He actually had a contract with Louis. Louis only could train females for him, fillies, and he says, I'm buying them for them. I say, he said, do you want a piece of them? I said, Louis, you think I'm going to go in the winner's circle with 18 freaking people? He would go in and he had 20, 30 people in there. I said, no, Louis. I said, it doesn't matter anyway because I already bought him from Clinton. I called him up Sunday night and I bought him. He said, how much do you have to pay? I said, 50,000. He said, that sounds okay. I said, okay. He said, he said, when you go make the deal? I said, Tuesday around 10 o'clock, he's coming to the stable gate. He said, if I were you, I'd be sitting right at that stable gate at 10 o'clock. I said, why do you say that? He said, because Larry, what's his name? Larry, not Rolla, not Larry, Larry, the accountant.
Larry Summer.
Larry Summer. He's offered him 60. Larry Summer said he don't care what he wants that horse. I said, oh, yeah, it's okay. So I got to work early. I just sat by the track kitchen. I waited for him to come. He had that white Cadillac with the purple vinyl top that matches colors. So he comes out and he's walking real fast. I said, Clint, I said, got the check. Can we make the transfer inside? He said, how much is it? I said, 50,000. He said, nah, I got to have 60. I said, you got to have 60. I said, you told me on the phone. You gave me a word. You said 50 was the price. That's what you said. He said, well, I can get 60 now. If you don't want them, forget it. I said, okay. I said, I'll go back to the office. I felt like a little schmuck. Felt like telling him, listen, take your horse and shove it, because I don't like anybody threatening me with anything. I don't care what it is. So he said, I wanted him. Ran back, told my secretary, make me another check for 10,000. Meantime, she's looking at the bills, and anyway, so I went and got him. He gave me the papers, told me where the horse was. I brought him right over, put him in Louis' stall, had a stall already, and you know what groom took care of him? Greasy. You remember that black guy, Greasy?
I don't know him.
His name was Greasy. He had like a million. His name was John McAllister, but they called him Greasy because he's always greasy. Anyway, so he was a good groom, so he took care of him. So Louis looked him up and down and this and that, and he said, he said, do you want to sell Barry a piece of him? I said, no. I don't have. Look, how long do you know me? I don't have a partner on any freaking horse. If you wanted a piece, I would sell them to you. But I'm not selling them to anybody else. And then they're going to tell me what they want to do and that they want to name, all that bullshit. So we had him. Louis really did a good job with him. Mike LaChance drove him. He won 10 straight at Roosevelt. 10 straight. Every week, 10 straight. He was moving up the line, moving up the clay, moving up, right? And he won 10 straight. 11th week, we put him in, and they used to have a newspaper there. You know, like the racing form is for thoroughbreds. Well, for standardbreds, it was called the Sports Eye.
Yeah.
Right? Right on the cover is a picture of Fairfella, and it says, Bo Derek was a 10. can fair fella be an 11, right?
Mhm.
I picked that up on Saturday afternoon going home. I pulled in my wife. I said, "Forget about going to the tracks tonight." She said, "Why?" I said, "Forget it. It's not going to win." She said, "Why?" I hold up the newspaper. This is the kiss of death right here. Whenever, whenever they had, oh, he did this, he did that. Sure enough, finished second. But I had him for a long, long time. But he was a very good horse. He was a very good horse, and we put him in. We put him in the George Morton Levy. Louis said, "I want to try him in the George Morton Levy." I don't think he belongs. He's a good open horse. He worked his way all the way up to the Open. At Roosevelt he was in the Open, and when he wouldn't fill, Larry Maller would get creative. He'd make a 75 claimers draw for 1-2, 80 claimers all the way up. And there's only 8 horses in the race, 5 horses in the race, anyways. The worst I get is a 5-hole, and I was winning that. So Louis wanted to put him in the George Morton Levy. He says, "I don't think he belongs there," but anyway, the first race he finished fourth, but he was on his hands and knees when he took him out. That brings me to the story of the horse that won all that shit. I'm in Pompano Park in Bill Popfinger's office, and we're getting ready to come out of Florida, and there and we're talking. And this guy walks in with a suit and tie, fedora, suit and tie, and says to Bill, very distinguished guy, "Bill, I would like to show you a horse that I'm selling for $100,000 if you're interested." So he says, "Bill, all right, let's see it." So he puts it, he had one of those old TVs, you put the 8-track in there, or the DVR. So he puts it in there, shows a picture of this horse, uh, leaves, someone retakes, he came and just draws off. So he says, "I want $80,000 for the horse." He says, "Who is he?" The guy's name was Dr. Lowell Overstreet. He said, "Bill," he says, "who's the horse by?" He said, "He's by Fortune Ritchie, and he's out of My Good Mare." So he says, Billy Poppins said, "Fortune Ritchie? Fortune Ritchie was a 10 claimer at Yonkers." So he
Mhm.
said, "Yes." He goes, "Yes, he was. And I was the one that claimed him." And he says, "I bred him to my mare." He said, "This is my horse." He said, "I want 100,000 for him." He says, "You're going to make a fortune with him." He says, "I think I'll pass." So anyway, I was talking to him and I said, "Can he get around a half mile?" "Oh, and is he sound?" "Sound." I said, "Would you take 90?" He says, "No." He says, "I can't take 90." He says, "You know what?" He says, I'm just going to keep him." The name of that horse was Do Run Run Bluegrass.
Mhm.
Mm.
Let's see how much he made. Hervé drove him. 1,880,000. Hervé, he won all the big races in Freehold, all those races. It was unbelievable, right? That you find some, you win some, and you lose some. But some of the ones that got away, that was, I don't feel bad about Jake and Elwood because I wasn't in the realm of buying $90,000 2-year-olds at that time. You know what I mean? I wanted
Ron,
ready.
let me tell you something before I forget
Sure,
about. I want to tell you something about Clint Galbraith, and then I want to ask you a question.
sure,
Clint Galbraith came up to Monticello one day to race. He's just an arrogant jerk.
right,
And he was in a race. He happened to be in a race with me. And something happened in the race, and he didn't win. And in the locker room, after we come back, we're in the bathroom there, and we're both washing up, and he's right in the sink next to me. And when he approaches the sink, I'm there already, and he says, just like this, "All you fucking guineas should go to hell."
huh?
Just as he said that, he put
Wow,
his head down to wash his face,
yeah,
and I grabbed the back of his head and I slammed him right into the thing, bloodied his nose, his eyes, turned the water on, and I walked out. He was just an arrogant fucking jerk. Okay, that's Clint Galbraith. I don't like. I'm glad I did what I did. But anyway, um, here's the question I have to ask:
sure.
in the early '70s, I bought a horse for $5,000 from John Chapman, and he was a trotter, and he had very bad feet, oblong feet, sidewalls very thin, had a quarter crack on every foot.
MMF.
MMF, and that was the name of the horse, MMF. So this is in the early '70s. I bought him, and I used to patch all the quarter cracks myself. This is before Ian McKinley and before anybody patched quarter cracks. I
Judd
used
Butler.
with the fiberglass.
Mhm.
So anyway, I patched all his feet up, and I was barred from Yonkers. So I call up Hervé, and I tell Hervé, I says, "Listen, I'm going to send you up a horse. He's a maiden, and he's going to win. He'll win. I think the first class for the trotters was C2, I think. But anyway, C3, C2, C1, B3, B2, B1,
There was
A3,
no C3s. It was
one,
C2, C1.
C2. Yeah, I think they started the trotters with C2.
Right.
And he went all the way up into the Invitational. I says he'll win every week. I told him, I says, now John Gotti is the real owner of this horse. I says, so you can't be fucking around with him because we all know Hervé. And all I want from you is the horses to give me 2 horses to play for second. And he did. And we win. He win 11 in a row. He win over $100,000.
Wow.
Hervé comes to John Gotti comes to me when he sends for me. I go meet him, and he says, "We got to sell the horse. I think we should sell the horse because I think I'm going to go away. I can't beat this rap, and if I do go, it'll be for a while. So let's just sell him." So and here's the question: I sold him to Gary Lewis,
Right.
and he because of his feet, and I told Gary the truth.
Right.
And back then he was all his horses he bet on Pete Morse. I don't know
Right.
about when you had him, but
Right.
and I told him about his feet, and I told him, I says how I patched him with fiberglass, and I says, listen, if I'm around and they grow out and you ever have a problem, I'll do it again. But anyway, he gave me $100,000 for the horse. He took the horse the following week to Florida, and he drowned in the swimming pool they had on the training side of. Now, my question to you: was you the owner of that horse at the time?
No.
Okay, I don't know who owned him, but Gary Lewis gave me the money.
No, he was. I wasn't. The only, like I said, the only horses I had with him was Fitzgerald Lobel, Post Time, all the ones I told you, but never with him. I just,
Wow.
you talk about Gary Lewis, but I had Gary Lewis did sell me a bunch of horses, and Gary Lewis was very good to me. And if he had a horse that he liked, he got a lot of horses from Australia and New Zealand, and he was very good to me. And we had another that one horse we traveled all over New York and Maryland.
Excuse me, I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm just gonna collect. I got my see when you don't have these. Okay, he would always ask me, if I had something going somewhere, could he get a ride there and this and that, and like I was happy to. He had an owner. He had a big owner in Chicago, and the owner's name was Bill McEnery. Did you ever hear of him, Larry?
No.
Okay, he was the first guy to put ATM machines on the river boats in those rivers in Illinois. Where you could go and put money in the machine, and you could cash. You could get money out of the ATM machine. And Bill McHenry loved harness horses, and he loved to race. And he used to call me on. We used to ship horses to him, and he would always say to the driver, would you ask Ronnie if this truck or trailer is for sale? Now, once I got the trailers really good with the air ride and everything else, I kept them. But when I first started, I had some of the trailers had spring, the spring suspension.
Right.
Nobody wanted to ride on that. You put any good customer on that, you just lost them. So I wouldn't do it anymore. But Bill didn't care because he just wanted his own horses. So and then I have a piece of shit tractor that was on his last leg. I say, you want the trailer, you gotta buy the tractor. So I send the whole thing out to him for $15,000. So during the years I known him. I'm at the Meadowland sale. It was in August. And I had my table there, and Gary, hello, Ronald, how you doing? Good. He said, Ronald, do you have anything going to Chicago? I said, I might. The sale just started. He said, well, I might have a nice horse going to Bill McHenry. He said, unless you'd like him. I said, well, what is it? He told me. He said, the name of the horse is Royal Arms A. He said, I got him. He said, he's non-winners or nothing. You get those horses from New Zealand. They're like 4 years old. They only race like 8 times or something like that. I said, how much you want for him? He said, will you give me 35,000? I said, will you take 30? No, Ronald, no. Every time I give you a horse, you try to give me a hard time. I said, okay. I said, forget it. I don't need a horse anyway. So at the end of the sale, I said to him, Gary, I'm going to Chicago. I got some horses for Del Insco. He had a farm above there, almost into Wisconsin, South Beloit, Illinois. So we used to take 3 or 4 up for Del Insco, bring 3 or 4 back. I said, where does he go? He said, Bill McHenry. I said, okay, no problems. We go into whatever racetrack was open at that time and drop off Royal Arms A. And I happened to get the Horseman Farewell. I always look. 2 weeks later, I see Royal Arms A wins the junior free-for-all. Next week, Royal Arms A wins the open place. He won about 4 in a row. So he called me up and he said, I might want to send that Royal Arms A, back east with Gary. He said, "Do you have any trucks going through that you can put them on there?" I said, I'll look for you, Bill. I said, but boy, that horse is doing good for you, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, where can you get an open pacer for $65,000? You believe that?
I believe it.
And you know what Gary offered me for, right?
No.
35,000. I said to him, how much you want for him? He said 35. I said, I don't need him. And he said to me, where can you get an open pacer for 65,000? I said, oh, I don't know, Bill, but you got him. You're lucky to have him. So I never said a word about that. We go to Kentucky that year, and we're out in Kentucky, and I would ship all of Gary's horses back and forth. And he said to me, Ronald, so he talks. He said, Ronald, he said, what's Big Billy doing tomorrow? I said, what do you need, Gary? He says, I have a horse out in Corbin, Kentucky. I'd like to buy. I'm buying, and I want to bring him here. I said, hey, look up. I said, Gary, Corbin, Kentucky is 90 miles from here. 90 miles. You got to go out 90, come back. He said, what would you charge me to go and bring him back? He says, no, Big Bill's not working. I said, I got to pay him while he's out here. It doesn't matter if he works. I said, can you give me 300, which is cheap? All right, if you have to have it. So anyway, Big Bill lives 5 o'clock, at least 5 o'clock in the morning, drives all the way out to Corbin, Kentucky. He meets this farmer. The farmer gives him a gallon of moonshine. I still have the empty gallon. There's no moonshine left. Anyway, he says, Big Bill said, I got a check for you, $15,000. Buy the horse. The name of the horse is Temptross. He's by Timogen, which is old, right? Timogen out of a Niatross mare. So, it's a big lanky looking thing. The guy has some oval. Big Bill was a groom, so he jogged him and he'd come back. And I was waiting at the track. He gets in about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He comes running over. He said, Ronnie, you ought to buy this horse from Gary. Buy this horse from Gary. Now, I know he paid $15,000 because we gave the guy a check. He said, you ought to buy him from him for $15,000. He's going to make you a good horse. He said, he doesn't wear any equipment, go around a half mile, he can do anything. He said, there's only one problem. He says, before he gets going, he has a crooked right hind foot. He said his foot sticks straight out like this. but when he gets going, he starts getting good like this, boom, then he starts going. I said, "Are you sure, Bill?" He said, "Yes." So I said, "Okay." I said, "Bill, you're sure now?" Anyway, I said, "Go to Gary." I said, "Gary, yeah, I got that horse here. Will you take 15,000 for him?" He says, 15,000? You know I paid 15,000. I said, "Well, forget about the 300 for the trucker. Just give me the horse for 15." He says, "No." He said, I'm going to sell that horse for, good 30, 35,000. I said, "Really?" I said, "Who are you going to sell him to? Bill McHenry? Like same guy you said that Royal Arms Aid to?" He said to me, "How much will you give me?" I said, I said, I said, I said, "You paid 15, I'll give you 20,000. All right. I'm not paying for the trucking now." I said, "Okay." So I got the horse 15,000. Brought him back. Big Bill brings it back to the Meadowlands. Louis calls me up and says, "Don't even think about taking him off the truck." He said, "Don't even take it." He said, "Big Bill took him off the truck." He said, "The horse got a crooked hind leg." He says, "I'm not getting any of these guys killed out here. Just take." I said, "Listen." Big Bill jogged him. He assured me that the leg clicks in. I mean, that sounds ridiculous. Clicks in. He said, yeah, he said, I'll have Jimmy. I'll have Jimmy jog him, but I'm gonna tell you, if he's not right, I don't want him. I don't even want him at my farm." Anyway, he calls back. He says, "Okay, we'll try him here." So he does. He raced him. Benny Webster came in second and won with him. We sent him over to Yonkers. He won about three in a row. I kept moving him up in the claiming rate. Finally, had him up in the 60 claimer, and he wins in 56 and one. And Tommy Lucento claimed him off me, and that was the last time I ever saw him. So that's just the story of another horse, but it was fun having him.
Manny, some Rick Simon said he heard me when I told you that your voice keeps going in and out, and he says that if you, where the hell is it? He says if you connect your phone to your home Wi-Fi, it won't do that. So I don't know if you know what that means. I don't know what it means, but if so, anyway, that's a message that he sent to you because your phone, every once in a while you freeze and you go we hear every third word, and anyway that was it. And he said because you might be coming on a lot, so you might as well set everything up so we can hear you loud and clear. And
Hey, Ron,
Yeah,
you want to hear a good story from me?
sure,
You know
of
how you
course.
you know how you said you have the good, you get the bad, and then you get the ones you don't have.
Right.
So 2012 Hurricane Sandy hits the East Coast, which I'm sure you remember Hurricane Sandy, right? That you heard
Of
about it.
course. Of course.
So I'm on the South Shore. We get buried over here. You have the Harrisburg sale that week. Every horse that I buy to this day, I don't look at the horse. I don't care if the horse toes out, toes in, does anything. I look at the horse. If I like the horse, I buy the horse. Sometimes I buy a horse just because of the name. And that's just the way I do it. And I've been successful doing it. So I'm on the phone with Frank. And I said, "Frank, he's looking through the Harrisburg book. And I'm not going to tell you the name of the horse yet." And he tells me, he goes, "Check out this horse here." I go look at the hip number. It's an Andover Hall. Sire's Andover Hall. So I asked Frank, I said, "Frank, what is this horse? What do you think this horse is going to go for?" He goes, "Andover Hall sells for good money. The horse is going to go for 40,000 minimum." And I think he was going the second or third day. So I turned around. I said, "You know what?" I said, "Frank, we're going." I said, "I'm going to buy the horse." Anyway, Hurricane Sandy hits. I couldn't leave. Not that I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave because I had so much business going on because I'm in construction. I didn't. I couldn't tell you. I was running here to there, ripping out a basement here, running here, ripping out a house, 10,000, 15,000, 12,000, and I was going back and forth. I'm making a score. The horse sells for $7,000.
Hmm.
You want to know the name of the horse?
Okay.
The horse's name is Nunzio.
Oh, okay. I
The
know.
horse made $3.7 million
I know.
dollars. and you talk about a bad beat, I would, Ron, there's no doubt about it. I would have bought the horse. But, like you said, sometimes you lose the good ones.
Yeah, it just wasn't meant to be. With that Pilgrim's Patriot, if my truck had left that Wednesday, he'd have been on it. But because I didn't have any, and then they tempted me with the extra money, and then Kevin Wallace wanted another 90 because he thought I was desperate. I got one more for you, Larry.
All right. And then after that, we have to go only because a
Okay.
friend of mine is putting up a video and an audio that I need for tomorrow night. And I was
Okay.
supposed to call him at 10 o'clock. So
Okay. All
after
right.
this, we'll just close it down.
Okay, no problem. I'm at Yonkers and I see Tommy Houghton leave with a horse from the Houghton stable. He leaves, goes to the front with him. Raced pretty good, but then in the stretch he faded to fourth. I go over to the barn and I ask, not the groom of the horse, but one of their grooms. It was a black guy. His name was Blue Gable. Remember him, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
He used to say, "Hello, love." We used to call him "Hello, love, Blue Gable." Minute I pull up, he says, "Ronnie, you're not a nice horse. That horse in the breezeway, you should get him." I said, "The boy don't take good care of him. He got bad feet. You should try to get him. You get to bring him to Louis and straighten those feet out. You got a good horse." So I said, went in there, looked at him. He was a Niatros, but he was out of an airliner mare, so he didn't have that Roman nose on him. So I asked Apples Thomas, Billy Houghton's trainer. I said, "Is that Bull Ruler for sale?" He said, "Yeah, he's for sale, but I don't think you're going to get him because Linda Toscano is going to buy him." I said, "Really?" I said, "When?" He said, "She's coming to train him today." So I was scouting around the track looking. She used to have these two owners, two big heavy set guys, real big, and they drove around in like a light tan Cadillac, and they had all the emblems taken off and put back in gold. You ever see that? Where people do that, they have the
Yeah.
door handles in gold and the Cadillac emblem in gold, gaudy as shit. But anyway, Linda goes down, trains will come back, and I figured that was it. I'm sitting in my office looking out the window, never see him come back. But noontime, I go back out, and Apples, he used to love to stand out there and hose down the macadam, as I call it, out of the barn. So I said, "Apples, where's Bull Ruler?" Now his name was Bull, but Ruler was Rolah. That's
Mm-hmm.
how, because they must have a million rulers, right? So he says, "He's back in the barn there." I said, "Well, what happened?" Linda didn't like him. I said, "Why didn't he like him?" He said, "He didn't like him because he pins his ears when he goes." I said, "Really?" I said, "Does he?" He goes, "Yeah, he does." Says, "Okay, no problem." I said, "You still think he's worthwhile buying?" He says, "Yeah, if you want him." I said, he wouldn't give you. So I said, "How much they want for him?" He said, 40,000. He said, "But the guy that owns him, and his name is Larry Devane, and he owns and he builds shopping centers in New Jersey." He says, "Here's his home phone number, and here's his work number." So I call. I must have called a week in advance. Wife said, "Oh, Larry just left for the shopping center." I said, "All right." I said, "Could you let him call me?" Never calls me. Next day, I speak to Larry. He just left. Call back again. Larry, the woman said, "Listen, you can't keep calling here. Let me give you the number of about 3 phone booths." That time they had phone booths in the shopping center. Maybe you get a hold of them. So I did. So I called, and guy answered, "Hello." I said, "Hi, is this Larry?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "This is Ron from Woodbury Transportation. Apple Thomas told me that you're looking to sell Bull Ruler." "That's right." I said, "Would you be willing to sell him to me?" He says, "You got 40,000." I said, "Yes, I'd be very interested." He said, "I don't want no vetting or checking him out. You want him? If you want him, you bring Apples a check for 40,000. He has the papers and he has the what's the birth certificate? They call it something else. Anyway, you got that. You can have it." So I said, "Okay." I said, "You sure?" He said, "Yep." So I go to Apple's trailer. It's on Tuesday. I said, "Apples, I got a hold of Larry." He said he's going to sell me that Bull Ruler for $40,000, and you could sell it to me. So I got a check here for $40,000. Give me the eligibility papers and the
Registration.
registration. So he said, "Okay." So he said, "Are you Ronnie?" 40,000, right? I said, Apples, how many years we've been together? You think I would tell you a story? He said, okay. Apple signs the thing, gives it to me. I give it to Roy Rollins. He goes up to Yonkers, gives it to the clerk of the court, gets it done, brings it over to the racehorse. I put the horse in for Saturday night in a 40 claimer. Anyway, I didn't go to the races because I was in Florida, and I listened to the replay. That horse left. He was on top, right to the top of the stretch with Carmine driving. And then all of a sudden, they named the horse that went first, second, third. He never got a call. So Louis called me. He said, Ronnie, he said, yeah. He said, that horse you bought? I said, yeah. He says, he's got stopped like an 8-day clock. He said he got thrush. He got thrush, something terrible. He says he's not going to be able to race for at least a month. He says, maybe we can get him in under the 30-day rule. He said, but his feet are very bad. I said, okay, I believe it. We go back there to New York and go there. I never realized what a stink that stuff is, right? When they put that blue stuff or whatever, the smells like it's like athlete's foot for a horse.
All you need is bleach. The
Yeah.
copper tox blue stuff is a waste.
Yeah, he was, he had them all taped up, and when they took it off, the took the gauze off or whatever it was, the smelled like anything. So anyway, I didn't pay him any mind for a while. And one Saturday, it was raining. He comes into the office with his outfit on, all full of dirt and everything. He said, I just trained Bo Rule. I'm going to put him back in. I'm going to drop him in Wednesday for next Saturday. He says, did you know that little bastard pins his ears? I said, yeah, I do. He said, yeah. He says, but he goes with it. And he put one of them skull caps on, the thing with the holes in them. I said, okay. We raced him. Donnie Dancer drove him. He finishes third. The next week, Donnie Dancer wins with him. And then the next week, Donnie Dancer wasn't there, and Hervé drives him. One. I go down the winner's circle, and at those days, I thought I was, knew everything. I knew everything about horses. I always used to run out. I used to be so excited. I used to always run out, grab the horse, and undo his check for him. You know what I mean? Undo the check, so the horse could drop his head. And 99 out of 100 times that worked. But this time, the horse flat out falls right on top of me. I'm pinned in the winner's circle in front of everybody in the whole racetrack looking. I mean, pinned. You couldn't get up. Flat up. And the minute I undid his check, he just went like a weeble. He just went boom. And I'm laying on the racetrack, my face in the dirt like this. I'm trying to save face, all dressed up, right? I couldn't get up. Hervé had leaped off the bike. He just said, don't move, don't do anything, don't move. He walks over, he puts his foot on the horse's neck, he grabs his reins, and in one shot, he just snatches the reins up, the horse lands right on his feet. That's how he got the horse, a bike and everything. Mm-hmm. And I got up, busted myself off and everything else. And my friend said, are we going back up to Louis' box? I said, I ain't going back to Louis' box for 2 months. I said, it's lucky I even come to the track after that. It was so embarrassing getting pinned underneath that horse. And I said, Hervé says, you don't. He says, when there's the horse race, you don't have to do that. When you first check him up and the horse is all up on the bit, wants to train, after the race, he's not all up on the bit. You know what I mean? He says, you can. And so I never did that again. Just stayed out of the way because it was so embarrassing.
Let me tell you a story about a horse I had that pinned his ears. He'd pin him, and he'd pin him right up against his neck. And I think I win 4 or 5 races with him. And I forget the guy who bought him. I think it was I forgot. Anyway, he buys the horse, and he was a hotshot trainer and knew it all. But anyway.
Oh, Joe Maneri?
Huh?
Who are you talking about, Joe Maneri?
No, I can't tell you the name of the horse, the name of the guy, because I can't remember it. But it wasn't Maneri.
Oh, okay.
So the horse comes out in the post parade, and he has a shadow roll behind his ears. The shadow roll was attached to the race halter, and the strap part was attached to the crown on the bridle. Right. So it was right up against his ear, so he couldn't pin him back. And I guess I should have said something because, when you get a horse on a racetrack and the first thing they do is pin his ears back, normally you put a shadow roll there with some spikes so they don't pit, so they keep their ears up. I don't know what the reason for that is, but that's what I did when I first got the horse. Anyway, I took the shadow roll off and he went 3-4 in a row and I sold him. But the guy who bought him put the shadow roll on and he just wouldn't even try. He finished 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. And then I went to the guy and I said, just take that shadow roll, let him pin his ears. Because he pinned him, not just put him back, but laced him right up against his neck. But some horses, when that happens, try him with the shadow roll if you want or with the skull cap. But if they don't work, just let them pin their ears. Yeah. And that's it. We got to go, guys, because I got to call my friend. Ronnie, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
As soon as Michael Chance calls me, we'll do it again. Manny, I'm sure I'll talk to you in a day or so. Thank
Larry,
you.
Larry, play the song. Play the song at the end.
Which song?
Your song.
It's Getting Late?
Yeah.
That's a good song. That's a nice song. All right, Joe, thanks for coming on, Joe.
All right, guys. Good night, everybody.
I'll talk to you.
Good night.
Joe, is your dad okay? Is he getting better?
Pretty good.
Good. All right. I hope maybe he's well enough. Maybe you can come down here, as soon as he's well enough.
Yeah.
We'll have dinner.
This is the first year we missed coming to New York, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Larry, thank you.
Thank you for having me on again,
Good
Larry.
night, everybody.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks, Joe. Manny, I'll talk to you in a day or so.
Bye. Nice meeting you, Manny.
You got it. Bye, guys.
Okay,
take care. I'll talk to you.
I'm going to play the song, Manny.
Play it. I love it.
And for all you guys, I'm sorry I didn't get to any of the comments. The stories that Ron told I just didn't want to miss any of them. It brought back a lot of memories. And so for me, it was a very, very interesting show. So I'm sorry I didn't get to none of the comments. So that's it. Good night. Thanks for showing up. And with that, I will play the song that was written to me. And if you listen to the words, they're great words. Here goes, and good night.
Good night.
Dump those grudges, ditch those judges. They're just weighing you down. Drop the haters, procrastinators, 'cause one man's smile is just another one's frown. When it's time for the end, ain't no warning, my friend. One day you're here, next stop the pearly gates. So listen close to what I'm saying. Lighten up, it's getting late. Dump collections, self-reflections, they're just covered in dust. Why obsess, worry or stress? Just ask yourself, what's the fuss? When your doctor calls you on a Sunday afternoon, gonna be a blue Monday, you'll be howling at the moon. You know you never can cheat fate. Lighten up, it's getting late. Forget bling and glitter, text and Twitter. Don't need it to make my case. Say it old school, face to face. Dump the users, soul abusers, turn and walk away. Give yourself a kick in the ass, then raise your glass. Let's toast to the past and make the most of today. Keep the faith, rise above, do the things that you love. Find a reason every day to celebrate. So listen close to what I'm saying. Lighten up, it's getting late. dreadful, life goes fast, carrying around too much dead weight. All the simple things are all that matter. Lighten up, it's getting late.
Larry, you
Oh,
playing?
what the hell? IGL. Oh, lighten up, it's getting late.
Manny, can you hear something? Can you hear anything? I can't hear anything.
Good night, folks.
All right, good night.
Good night, Ron. Good night, Manny.
Good night. Take care.